Welcome to another deadline stream ahead of Game Week 18. The deadline itself will be in around 2 hours time, so we have plenty of time to answer your questions and comments and also finalize my team selection. As I said in that video, the plan is to roll, but I still have 1 or 2 selection headaches. So Botman could be coming in for someone like Trossard in my starting 11. I'll probably put a poll out later on in this video. And also I encourage you to leave ideas for polls in the live chat. I've already put a few on my channel if you want to check them out. The vast majority of you, I think over 80% have gone for Erling Haaland, but we're going to get through a lot of stuff today. But first off, let's go through your questions and comments and try to keep up because sometimes it does get very busy. So I do appreciate. Welcome, Ada. Should I start Walker or Ben White? So we'll get straight into this one. I'd go for Ben White. I actually don't think Kyle Walker will start again. And it is a bit telling that Cancelo came on and not Kyle Walker. So maybe Cancelo's a bit ahead in terms of fitness. And I would go for Ben White, despite the fact that Everton at home is an easier game than Brighton away. But Ben White will start with Walker. He might just come on for a one-pointer. The only positive is that maybe Walker won't come on at all like he did against Everton, or he will start and get the clean sheet potentially. But I would just go for Ben White, to be fair. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat as well. Gakpo, 8 million midfielder. So my prediction was 8.5, if not 8. But I was leaning more towards 8.5, so that's a decent price actually, and he's a midfielder. I think that makes him more enticing as an option compared to if he was a forward. I know he was in World Cup Fantasy, but in FPL I had a feeling he would be a midfielder. I'm happy that's the case. I think now he's more of a genuine option to consider. Andreas or Martinelli? To start, I would go for Martinelli. I know Andreas is playing Southampton, but I'd still go for Martinelli out of those two. Welcome to hi Dylan, please bench one and why? Looking at that list, it probably has to be between Cucurella or Cancelo to bench. You could argue Shaw, to be fair, but the reason why I say Cancelo is because he didn't even start the last game and came on for one-pointer. That could happen yet again. Of course, if Cancelo does start, I think he has a great chance of 6 to 12 points, anywhere between that, if he gets an attack in return or some bonus points, of course. But that was the big doubt, if he's going to start or not. As for Cucurella, I just don't really trust Chelsea defensively, and as bad as Nottingham Forest are, I still think they could score a goal past Chelsea. And if you've already got Kepa Arrizabalaga in goal, then I probably would just bench Cucurella from that list that you provided. Manu needs Morata. Morata says Manish. Yeah, he is linked to United. I'm still not too sure if that is the answer. He's a decent striker, but can also be an erratic finisher. I know we wait for double game weeks, but very tempted to triple captain Haaland for tomorrow. I don't blame you, and sometimes using these chips, it's just best to go for a player like Haaland, or in the case of a bench boost, whenever your bench is looking decent in a single game week, because some of these chips are fairly overrated anyway. The only really powerful ones, I would argue, is a free hit when used correctly and the wild card. Welcome, Elliot. I appreciate that. Compliments of the season upon us. James to Shaw for free or roll. Got Patterson and Bueno. I would do the transfer for free. I know you could roll, and that's fine. I like having 2 transfers in 19, but I would do the transfer now because I don't trust Patterson or Bueno. Patterson's playing Man City, and Bueno might not even start, and if he does, he could be subbed off just before 60 minutes like it was in Game Week 17. So I think it's in your best interest to do James to Shaw. And also, United could have a double in Game Week 20, according to Ben Krellin. There's a 70% chance of that. It also depends on the FA Cup, I believe. But Man United have a good chance of a double game week very soon. Yeah, as I've said before, Cucurella is a decent option to replace Reece James, especially in the short term. But I do prefer others like Botman, Ben White in the long term, not to mention Robertson even as a differential premium defender with a lot of explosive potential. So this is your team as well. Let me try go through this quickly, and let's see. We're quite far behind already. There's a lot of questions coming in, so try to be patient. I'm going to try whiz through these. So my team: Sanchez, Gabriel, Cancelo, Trippier, Salah, Martinelli, Rashford, Trossard, Almiron, Haaland, Tony, bench Ward, James Bueno. I think you asked this question the other day in the reaction stream, and my answer will be the same. I would get rid of James, if anything. If not, you could roll, and you're in a good position, to be fair. I don't think you need to necessarily make a transfer. I'll be honest, I think I'd roll now and have 2 free transfers in Game Week 19 to deal with the likes of Reece James, who is obviously the priority sell. But I think Gabriel, Cancelo, Trippier is just fine, and the midfield and attack looks very solid. So I'd roll, and then next week get James out for someone like Luke Shaw, for example, or even Robertson, depending on your budget. Replace KDB for Salah, right? I don't think so. I think KDB against Everton, I think he'll start. and he's got a great chance of returns. He was very unlucky not to get more against Leeds, and I know Salah, well, at least in my opinion, Salah's a slightly better option. That's why I went for him, but I don't think much separates the two, and you can't just base it off one game week. So, still very close. And before this game week, actually, KDB had more points than Salah throughout the season. And against Everton, I think the ceiling's so high. You could also argue with Salah as well against Leicester, but I wouldn't do that. I'd just keep KDB. Hey Dylan, Shaw, Botman, Cancelo, Kulusevski, Andreas, bench one. I'd probably bench Andreas Pereira from the list you provided. Although, like I said with someone else earlier, you could even consider benching Cancelo because he might not start and he might come on for a one-pointer, which would be very frustrating. Welcome, Suraj. Good to see you. I'm doing well. What about you? Thank you very much for asking. Keep Martial or transfer in Mitrovic? I would keep Martial and then maybe get Mitrovic in for the next week because there's a possibility you bring in Mitrovic now, he gets yellow carded, he misses the first of the double game week, and then you're not that interested in him anymore, at least for the time being. James to Shaw seems to be the knee-jerk transfer. Don't know who to sub him for the tough fixtures, though. The thing is with United, they always had these 3 good fixtures on paper, especially the one in Game Week 19 as well. And they could have a double in Game Week 20. So I think there's a lot to like with the likes of Luke Shaw and Diogo Dalot. I still don't trust United that much defensively. They were a bit fortunate not to concede against Nottingham Forest. But, I mean, who else do you go to? Maybe Robertson, for example. But Liverpool are also shaky. And Robertson is around 2 million more expensive than Shaw. So it just depends what you want to do with the rest of your squad. But I think it's fine. I think Shaw's a decent transfer, at least for the next 5 to 7 game weeks, you could say. Value in Creswell? I don't think so. West Ham are very poor right now. West Ham fans will probably tell you better than I will. They have no faith in the team. Creswell would be the best defensively, but I just wouldn't go there. If I had to go for any West Ham player, it might be someone like Jared Bowen, but even then, I just can't bring myself to do it, despite the good fixtures. Triple captain Haaland? To be fair, with Haaland, my plan is to triple captain him either in a double game week or when he has an enticing home fixture. I think Everton counts as that. They're looking very, very shocking at the moment. So yeah, I honestly would say why not, but I'm personally still going to roll it and not use the triple captaincy just yet. But I think it's a good idea and a good opportunity to use it now, potentially. Replace KDB for Salah? Like I said earlier, I wouldn't. Best James replacement, says Abdullahi, sorry. For me, it's Ben White or Botman, and if you've already got a double up in Arsenal defensive or Newcastle, or you don't want to do that and you just want to stick with one, then I would go for Robertson. Yes, the likes of Shaw and Cucurella are also decent options to replace him, and I do prefer Shaw out of those two, but I would limit it to that pool of players, so those 3 in particular. If you've already got Ben White, for example, then I would say either Botman or Shaw, but it really just depends what you want to do, because Robertson, for example, would be the premium like-for-like replacement that I think could do the job for you as well. I took out Trossard for Odegaard. What do you think? It might backfire because Trossard does very well against the bigger teams, so to speak. And Odegaard, I think, does even better when he faces a team that just sits back, defends, and he has more opportunities to have the ball and to create chances like he did against West Ham and Wolves. 2 teams that sat back very deep. I don't think Brighton will do that. And if anything, it could be the likes of Martinelli or Saka that get the joy and the FPL points in this fixture. So I do like Odegaard in the long term. I think he's exceptional value. But in fixtures like this, it might be the wrong timing, so to speak, and it could backfire. But it's a good transfer. Should I sell Nketiah to Mitrovic for -4? No. I don't think it's worth it. Like I said to someone else earlier, why take a risk on Mitrovic, especially for a -4, by the way, and then, for example, he might get yellow carded and then misses one of the double, one of the fixtures in the double game week in 19. So, no. The answer is definitely no. Welcome, Ans. I'm doing well. What about you? Thank you very much for watching and for tuning in. With who to change James, we covered this in all the videos and also a few times today. I just keep it very simple. White or Botman, even Shaw if you want a kind of cheaper defender. And if you want a premium, so to speak, so 6 million and over, I'd say Robertson. Start Saliba or Shaw? I would start Shaw from those 2. Are you tempted by Mitrovic this week? I am. I won't lie to you. I do wish I went for him. If he wasn't yellow flagged, I think I might have gone for him and Andres Pereira instead of Trossard and Greenwood. But it is what it is. It's still a risk, though, and especially for those that have Kane, for example, and then you would have 2 players that are a risk of suspension. That's obviously going to be in the back of your mind. I am tempted by him this week, but I would have to either take a -4 or get rid of Kane or Haaland, and that's not going to happen, quite frankly. So right now, I'm happy to go without him for another week and then maybe bring him in for Game Week 19. I wouldn't captain Martinelli. I think you could have a bit of joy potentially with the way Brighton play, but I'm still a bit apprehensive. And if anything, I actually predict Martinelli You know, if there was any game week that he would blank in the next few, I think Brighton could be one. Now, one big plus for Arsenal is that Caicedo is suspended and McAllister is probably not going to be available once again. So I think Arsenal have an advantage, especially in the midfield. But would I captain Martinelli? No, I honestly wouldn't. But if you have a good feeling about it, I'd go for it. Should I risk it and captain Nunez for tonight and not Haaland? I wouldn't personally. I would go for Haaland, a Salah or a Kane. I wouldn't captain Nunez. I think he's far too erratic with his finishing. Look, he has the potential. He showed the amount of chances he got into. You know, you have to give him credit for the positioning, his pace, and his movement. But would I captain him? Honestly, I wouldn't. Gakpo won't be starting until 2 weeks at least. Yeah, he's someone may need to consider at the end of January, so to speak. With Firmino back from injury, Darwin out soon. I don't think so necessarily. He might have the odd benching, especially with the FA Cup coming about and also the Champions League in February, but I still think Nunez will be first choice over Firmino on most occasions. Would you triple captain Haaland? Yeah, we covered this already, and a few questions have been repeated. Hopefully you have heard the answer. If you haven't, then let me know, but we're going to try cover different questions. Play Andreas or White? I would play Ben White personally, but I could understand if you went for Andreas Pereira. Cucurella or Shaw? I would go for Luke Shaw personally. I think United are in a better stage at the moment, I would say. I think they're a slightly better team than Chelsea, and I think United will get better and better with Chelsea. I think there's a few too many doubts, and Cucurella, I know he was technically playing as a left wing back, so to speak, against Bournemouth, but he was tucking in a lot as the left centre back at times, and that would concern me. Obviously, that could change now with Reece James out, but I think Shaw's the better option. Are you tempted to captain Salah? I'm actually more tempted to captain Kane, but yes, Salah's another one that I am tempted by, but after Haaland's performance, it's hard to really diverge from that. If Haaland was looking very shaky, missing a lot of chances and not scoring and, you know, just looking off it, then I would go somewhere else potentially, but obviously it can always backfire. Maybe it's kind of an effective ownership game and, you know, there's too many doubts about that. What if it goes wrong? But I'm actually more tempted by Harry Kane, and that's why he's my current vice-captain at the moment. But you could go for either three, to be fair. And I also include Haaland in that conversation, of course. Yeah, I do like Kane as a captaincy option against Villa. I think he's blanked, or he hasn't scored in his last 3 games against Aston Villa. But before that, he had an incredible record against the Villains. So I think he's a decent option. Start Rodrigo or Trossard? It's a good question. I think I'd go for Trossard from those two. Trossard in or out? If I had Trossard, I'd probably keep for now in most cases. If I didn't have him, I wouldn't bring him in. That's as simple as that. So I don't think he's a sell, but I also don't think he's a buy. If anything, he's a hold, so to speak, for those that have him. Saliba, Gabriel, or White? I think White, but for those that have Saliba, you know, from the beginning of the season, they have a lot of value tied up in him. I'd probably stick with him. He's the second highest scoring defender in the game. Only Trippier has more. Wilson up for a -4? If so, to who? It's a tricky one. I think Mitrovic would be worth it, but you also have to hope that he doesn't get another yellow card. So apart from Mitrovic, I'd say Martial and Nketiah. And I do favour Nketiah a little bit more than Martial, and I said this before Game Week 17. I don't think there's much in it, but I still maintain that belief, despite Martial having 2 better fixtures, I would say, coming up, and also a potential double in 20 as well. Replace Cancelo? I'll keep the same belief as I said a few days ago. I would keep him for now, and if he's benched yet again, that's when I'd probably look to sell. I know it might be a bit detrimental. You know, if you're convinced that he's going to be benched, then it might be worth a sell, but I still have that slight doubt that he could start still, whether it's the left back or right back, and I'm probably going to keep him for at least 1 more week and then reassess later on, have 2 free transfers in 19 and have more information and obviously the transfers available to deal with different problems. Thank you, Ross, for the super chat. Very generous one. I appreciate it very much, mate. Happy New Year to you, and I hope you had a great Christmas. I have De Gea, Ward, Trippier, Akanji, James, White, Bueno, Rashford, KDB, Kulusevski, Martinelli, Andreas, Haaland, Darwin, Wilson. Thoughts on a -8 for KDB to Salah, James, Botman, Shaw, Cucurella, Wilson to Havertz? It's an interesting one, and I appreciate the kind gesture, and also it's a good team. I wouldn't do KDB to Salah, especially if it involves a hit. I do prefer Salah, but is it worth a hit for me? No, it definitely isn't. And even on a free transfer, I would be very reluctant about that, because Kevin De Bruyne at home to Everton, I could see a big haul for him. A few assists, maybe, even a goal. So I wouldn't do that transfer. James to one of those defenders is completely fine. I like it. Who would I pick? Probably Botman or Shaw. Despite Cucurella having the double in 19, Shaw could have one in 20. I don't think Newcastle will have a double before Game Week 29, but having said that, Botman is a really good cheap option, and you could double up on Newcastle defensively, and honestly, that could be a great differential for you. So I would go for Botman or Shaw. I would do that transfer. Would I do Wilson to Havertz? Maybe, but I'll be honest, I do prefer, so looking at your forward line, you've got Darwin and Haaland. I would prefer Mitrovic, also Martial and Nketiah over Havertz in the long term, but that's also a decent transfer, and Wilson should be available. I mean, that's kind of a really, I can't say that with confidence, by the way. It just depends on if he's fit enough and if he's recovered from his illness, but my guess is Wilson will be on the bench. If not, sorry, he will be left out of the squad. I don't see him starting, so I think it's worth the hit to get rid of him. So a -4 would be good. So do James to Botman or Shaw for me. And also I'll do Wilson, but I would go somewhere else to Mitrovic, for example. And then if he stays suspension free, I would captain him potentially in Game Week 19 as a differential. So that would be my advice or my opinion. Let me know your thoughts there, Ross. Hopefully I have helped you there and I appreciate that. Thank you, Tony, as well for the shout out. Thank you very much. Why are people not playing Mitrovic? I don't think it's a case of not playing Mitrovic. It's just, is it worth, for example, in my case, getting rid of a Haaland or Kane for him? No. Is it worth a -4? No. And he's also got the suspension risk looming over him. And I think that's just enough to put you off for the time being. I think Mitrovic is worth it. If I could get to him from Greenwood, I would do it. Of course I would. But there's still that risk there. Start Mount or Martinelli? Good question. Mount has the better fixture, but I think Martinelli is a substantially better option in FPL. I'd probably still say Martinelli. I have Pope. I would sell him or Kepa in... Oh, wait, sorry. Or your opinion. I have Pope. I would... Is this a question about... Sorry, I probably misunderstood it. But if it's Pope or Kepa, who do I prefer? It would be Kepa, simply because he's cheaper. And you could also cover Newcastle defensively or Botman and Trippier. So if that's the question, hopefully I've answered it. If not, then be sure to let me know. Botman or Perraud long term? Oh, Botman all day long. Southampton are a poor defence. Newcastle one of the very best in the league. And even though I would expect a bit of a drop-off, especially in the weeks to come, I still think there's plenty of clean sheets there for Newcastle until the end of the season. And I still think they're going to be right up there for the top 4 race. So Botman all day long for me. Once again, I'd probably go for Ben White. I think Andres is a decent option, but for me, Ben White. Should I play Wilson in a 3-4-3 or play Andres in a 3-5-2? Benching Wilson or roll free transfer? I do prefer Wilson, but I don't think he's going to start personally, and I could be wrong about that. So I will do the transfer Wilson to Mitrovic if you could, and then play a 3-4-3 in that case. By the way, let me know. I think I had a few drop frames there. I saw the traffic light system. I got a bit worried because I think literally in the last deadline stream, it got cut short, unfortunately. Yeah, Dallow's back in training. That's not too much of a surprise. But would I buy him just yet? Maybe not, because it could be eased back in and Wan-Bissaka could play at least one more game. So if you were buying into United defensively, it would be Luke Shaw. Should I sell Saliba? I don't see a reason to sell him necessarily. I know the fixtures aren't great, and I don't see too many clean sheets potentially. But if you have a lot of value tied up in him, I would keep Saliba. I think he's worth it, and it's going to be very difficult to buy him back. If you don't have that much money tied up in him and you want to get to a Luke Shaw or a Cucurella, then I would sell him. But honestly, I'd probably keep in most cases. James to Cucurella, I think it's a decent transfer. I've said this all along. He would be 4th or 5th in my list of James replacements. As I've said before, though, White, Botman, Luke Shaw, Robertson would be just ahead, I think, of Cucurella. Transfer Shaw in or start White and roll? I'd probably start White and roll, and then you can bring Shaw in, and you could have a double in 20, which we should find out before the Game Week 20 deadline. Saliba or Botman? I prefer Botman right now. Kepa or De Gea, choose one. It'd be Kepa. I think De Gea is decent, but you've also got Dalot and you've also got Shaw. In the case of Chelsea, you know, who do you go to defensively? Maybe Cucurella, but even then, I would rather cover United defensively with the defenders, and I'd rather cover Chelsea defensively with Kepa, who I think has a higher ceiling than De Gea. Do I start Saliba or Callum Wilson? I think Wilson would be benched, so because of that, I would go for Saliba. This could backfire. For those of you that are asking about starting Wilson or not, if he starts, then I think he's better than, you know, the other scenarios you've provided, like Saliba, for example, or Andres, whoever it may be. And it could backfire. Of course it could. My assumption is that he doesn't start, and that's why I'm going the other way. Should I replace Kulusevski? I'd probably keep him for now. I think he could do well against Aston Villa, who looked very shaky against Liverpool. They should have conceded 3 or 4, you could argue. And I think Spurs will do pretty well there with Harry Kane, Son, who I think could score here, and Kulusevski. So I would keep Kulusevski for now. In the long term, I do prefer Saka and a few others. Start Kyle Walker. I don't think he starts. So would I start him? Probably not. I have Cancelo, Cucurella. Yeah, sorry. If you spam the question, it's not going to be answered. Try to be patient. Yeah, welcome, Kerwin. Good to see you once again, and happy holidays. Play White or transfer out Reece James? I'd probably play Ben White and then have 2 free transfers in 19. You'll have more information, and you could also do something else. So, sorry, you could maybe downgrade Reece James, find extra money, and you could upgrade another position. For example, Reece James down to Shaw in 19, and that enables you to do Greenwood to Mitrovic as just one particular example. So I would roll at the moment if you can. Welcome, John. Good to see you as always. Greetings to you as well. Surely Cucurella over Botman due to the double game week. Yeah, fair enough. He's got a double game week, but it's against Man City and Fulham. I honestly don't see a clean sheet. You might, and if you do, then fair enough. But I think Botman's the better pick in the long term. Cucurella's only better for the next 3 or 4, you could say. And also, I like his fixture in 18 actually against Forest, but yeah, still it's Botman for me all day long. I wouldn't go for Thiago Silva personally. He was limping a little bit in the other game. I think he'll be fine, by the way, for the next one, but I would just have a few doubts about Thiago Silva. I think Chelsea are poor defensively. I think he's a bit too much money as a result. And also, I'm a bit worried that he could get an injury or that there could be some rotation at least, especially when we get even more games from other competitions very soon. So I'd rather go elsewhere. Martial to Mitrovic or roll and do it next week. I'd roll and do it next week. Exactly that. Start Cucurella or Martinelli. In that case, I'd probably go for Cucurella, but I think Martinelli has the highest ceiling for sure. And to be honest, you know what? No, scrap that. I'd go for Martinelli. I think Martinelli's a better FPL option. I know you could say Cucurella's more likely to get a 6-pointer, but I'd still go for Martinelli for me. Best James replacement, we've covered this already. To keep it simple, Botman, Ben White, Luke Shaw and Robertson. It just depends what you're looking for. If you want a like-for-like premium defender, I'd go for Robertson. If you want a cheaper one, I would probably go for Ben White. If you've already got an Arsenal defender or something like that, then I'd go for Botman, etc. That's the way I'd go about it. Who to start, White, Trippier, Shaw or Cucurella for a back 3? For a back 3, I'd go for Trippier all day long. Don't bench him for me. I would also go for Shaw and probably Cucurella this week. Start Andreas or start Anthony? I would go for Anthony, but he was very poor in the last game. Is it worth selling James to Robertson for a punt? Yes, he definitely is. I've mentioned Robertson several times today. My concern is that Liverpool haven't been great defensively this season, and they have a lot of away fixtures where they don't keep clean sheets, but I think Robertson makes up for it with his attacking potential, the bonus points, and everything else that comes with it. But I've got to bench Shaw, White, or Martial for Robertson. Honestly, you could do James to Robertson, but maybe roll the transfers, Sudindra, and you'll have more information, 2 free transfers in 19. I think that's a huge advantage. Ola Dylan, sticking with Darwin, Galatin again. Yeah, no, I'd stick with Darwin as well if I had him, in most cases, of course. But yeah, with Darwin, he's such a weird one. I had enough confidence in Gameweek 16 to take a punt on him for 1 week, but is he someone that I would have brought in for the long term? No. I've said this before as well, but yeah, hopefully it does pay off for you because he showed what he's capable of already, and he had a lot of chances against Villa. If he does it again, he might even score a brace or a hat-trick this time. Start Cancelo or Botman? I'd go for Botman because I don't know if Cancelo will start. With Botman, I know he will. Like I said, Zitzi, I'd roll. I wouldn't get Thiago Silva. I've explained that already. Perisic out for White? No, I'd keep Perisic this week and then maybe do that transfer next week or do something else. Maybe go for a Shaw or someone else like Robertson. Will Cancelo start? I can't tell you for sure. And I don't think we get the lineups until tomorrow. My prediction is that Cancelo won't start, but I might be wrong about that. And, you know, that might sound a bit weird because he's still in my starting 11. He is actually in my consideration to drop as well to the bench, but my fear is that Cancelo will start, I'm benching him, and then he gets a 6 or 12 pointer. And that's what he can do. Will Foden Cancelo play? My gut feeling is that Foden won't play. And with Cancelo, I'm less certain about this. But my gut feeling also is that he won't play as well. Or he won't start anyway. I have Pope. Can I sell him and get Kepa in? This is the thing though. Do you want to make a goalkeeper transfer? I do prefer Kepa. But is it worth a transfer when Pope has a good chance of a clean sheet this week? I'd probably just keep him and do something else. Both are great keepers. I think Pope in the long term is better. But yeah, I'd just keep Pope, I think. Start Trossard or Martial? I'd go for Martial this week. But Trossard could do well against Arsenal. Don't write him off. I prefer Botman this week. In the long term, it's 50-50. But I think right now I'd go for Botman. Should I sell Wilson or bench him for Game 18 and 19? I'd sell him, but if he starts, he has a great chance of returns. I'm saying to sell him because I think he'll be benched, but I could be wrong, and it's completely up to you. If you think he starts, I'd keep him for sure. Start White or Trossard or Andreas. I would go for Trossard, and that's what I'm doing right now, but it's very close between him and White. Thank you, Sudindra. I appreciate that very much, and Happy New Year to you as well. I appreciate that shout out very much. Mitrovic or Havertz next game week? Mitrovic for me all day long. The only concern is the suspension. Apart from that, I think Mitrovic is a better option. I know Havertz looked very good the other day, but still Mitrovic for me. I feel I messed up the wildcard going with Wilson, Trossard and Darwin over Salah, Mitrovic and Greenwood. Already had a wildcard, had to transfer out James. Is it crazy to think of a wildcard again? I wouldn't wildcard just because of 2 or 3 players. You could easily make amends. You could get to these players in 2 weeks or, you know, taking a -4 hit very soon in maybe a week's time. I don't think it's worth a wildcard. Think about the wildcard later in the season to be strategic with other chips that will boost your chances of getting higher scores in very important parts of the season. So I wouldn't use the wildcard just yet. Why White over Cucurella? Because I think White plays in a much better team and defence, and I could see more clean sheets. And also, Cucurella's a double, but he's playing Man City and Fulham. I've established this already. It's completely up to you. If you think Chelsea will do well, then go for him. You know, he's got Forest next, and he's got a double, but I just don't see too many clean sheets. Maybe one of the next 3 matches, in my opinion. Who would you replace for Cancelo? Robertson. Robertson or one of those options I said before. Luke Shaw, Ben White, Botman. I think that's the pool of players I would limit it to. Of course, I do like variety, by the way, but that's what I see as the best options right now. Sell Trossard or buy Rashford? I would buy Rashford. So sell Trossard to buy Rashford? Yes, I would. It could backfire, but I think in the long term, it is the best pick. Yes, Superstar, exactly. So Gakpo is an 8 million midfielder. I predicted 8.5, if not 8, but my kind of, if I had to lean one way, it was 8.5. Even better, he's a midfielder as well. I think there's a lot to like there. Thank you, Aaron, for the super chat. Thank you very much. James to Robertson, Perisic or Shaw? I would go to Robertson or Shaw. Perisic, no. I think Spurs have been far too vulnerable defensively. You've already got De Gea. I'd go for Robertson then. I wouldn't double up on United defensively. The only thing I would say is that United could have a double in 20, and they've got great fixtures before that, but I would go for Robertson. Cancelo or Shaw? Shaw this week, actually, because I don't think Cancelo starts. If he does, then I think he's better, but that's my big doubt, so I'd go for Shaw. Rashford or Martinelli, who starts? I'd rather start Rashford this week, and I think he's never blanked against Wolves in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken, when he started, of course. Best Chelsea defender, I think Cucurella, but I'm not a big fan. Yeah, Lipa, good luck with you on that. Let's see if Darwin does the business for you. Start Saliba or Martinelli? Probably Martinelli. Wildcard team is literally, I think I put a video yesterday covering the best wildcard team, so check that out. And I also list other options that don't feature on screen, but I also mentioned some other players that you could consider as well, like a Mason Mount or a Cucurella if you want to triple up on Chelsea or really attack the double game weeks. I think that video will do the job for you. Captain Trippier, I think I got this question the other day. I don't mind it. I even said this heading into Game Week 17, but he's facing Leeds at home. You know, that's a decent fixture. Good chance of a clean sheet, but I would have more confidence in a Haaland, Salah or Kane scoring than Newcastle keeping a clean sheet this week, per se. I think Newcastle will win, but I have more confidence in one of those other 3 players scoring, for example, or even De Bruyne. Sell Saliba to Botman if I don't have Trippier. I don't see a reason to do that, though. I like Botman a lot, and I would argue he's better than Saliba, but I would just keep Saliba, cover 2 of the best teams and, you know, defenses in the league right now, and just stick with Saliba, especially if you have a lot of value tied up in him. Welcome, John. Dylan, my son Teddy is 10 and watching with me today. Can you shout him out? He thinks you're cool. Thank you, John. I don't think so, but shout out to Teddy. Thank you very much for watching. And yeah, it does sound crazy, but I appreciate that. Start 1, Martinelli, Andreas, or Martial. Martial or Martinelli. It has to be one of those 2. And who would I pick? Probably Martial. Start Cancelo, Cucurella. In normal circumstances, it's Cancelo all day long, but because I think he might be benched, I'd probably go for Cucurella, and I'm very reluctant about saying that. If we get any news today before the deadline suddenly that Cancelo is going to start, then just go for him. White or Botman? For this week, Botman. James out for Mitrovic or Shaw? I'd rather get Mitrovic, but just remember the suspension risk. Out of Koulibaly, White, Trippier, Botman, and Wan-Bissaka, who should I play in a back 3? I would play Trippier, Botman, and probably probably... That's a good question. Maybe Koulibaly, just for the clean sheet probabilities from the other 3 players. Who do I play Darwin Nunez with? Can't afford Kane. I mean, I'd probably keep him. But if you really want to sell him, I'd go to Mitrovic. And if not, you've got someone like Martial and Nketiah as well. That is worth taking a punt on. Havertz as well, you might be interested in because of his performance and the double, but I would go to Mitrovic personally. Welcome, Safir. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Do you think Wilson and Mitrovic both start based off the press conferences? I think Mitrovic does, and I wouldn't trust Marco Silva anyway. As for Wilson, my gut feeling is that he'll be on the bench, and I could be wrong about that. That's just the gut feeling. I think Wood will start again, and Wilson will be on the bench, ready to come on if needed. Havertz or Mount worth it? Yeah, I think they're worth it, especially if you want to attack the double game weeks. But in the forward line, for example, you've got Harry Kane, Haaland, Mitrovic, Nunez, and so many others. And that's why I'm not so sure if Havertz is worth one of those precious 2 or 3 slots that you would have. As for Mason Mount, I'd be a bit more inclined to go for him. But at the same time, honestly, I'd rather go elsewhere. I cover this in the best wildcard team video. I'm not that big of a fan of these Chelsea assets, despite their really good performance against Bournemouth the other day. KDB to Salah for a hit? No, I just don't see a reason to do that. I think KDB against Everton is top 4 captaincy options at the very least this week. I know Salah is really appealing against Leicester, but I just wouldn't do it. Thank you very much, Hedge. I appreciate it. If I do sell James to Robertson, should I bench White, Shaw, or Martial? I'd bench Ben White, Sadindra, from those 3 this week. Bench 1 out of Trippier, Cancelo, Cucurella, and White. Probably Ben White. You could also consider Cancelo because he might be benched and he might come on for a 1-pointer. But I would bench Ben White, I think. I'm starting Botman over Rashford this week. Rashford this season hasn't got over 1 goal contribution away from home this season, and I fancy a Botman clean sheet. Yeah, that's fair enough. I was also considering something similar with Martinelli. Imagine that, because I don't see a high ceiling against Brighton. Sorry. I am also considering other options, though. I understand your logic. Would I do it myself? No. I'd probably look to bench someone else and put Botman into the team. And I think I'm going to do it, actually, very soon. Should I do Trippier and White or Trippier and Botman? Probably Trippier and White. I would rather cover 2 of the best defences in the league and have 1 of each than have 2 of 1. I'd rather do it that way, but I think both are fine. Start 1, Gross, White, Botman. I would start Botman. And by the way, Cameron, just to make myself clear, with what I just said, I mean in general, in the long term. For this week, who would I go for? I'd go for a double up in Newcastle. I have a very... How do I say this? I got a lot of confidence in Newcastle keeping a clean sheet against Leeds compared to Arsenal against Brighton. But in the long term, I would rather have 2 of the best defenses and teams covered defensively in the long term. So hopefully that makes makes everything clear. Roll the transfer right. In most cases, I'd say yes. I can understand, some people doing a transfer now. It does make sense, especially with people having Patterson and Bueno, having to come on. I don't think that's, ideal. Otherwise, I'd probably roll the transfer. Should I start Andreas? If so, who should I bench? I mean, I don't see a reason to bench any of those players for Andreas Pereira. So, Patrick, I'll probably just bench Andreas. Let's see what else we have. Foden captain. I just don't know. I don't know if he's going to start. So why would I do that? I don't know. I would love to say captain Foden because if he does start against Everton, he's got a great chance of returns. But I just don't see it. I think he might be benched again. So I would say no. I would start Martial. Have Cancelo, James, Bueno, Botman, Trippier. Who do I start? I'm not sure how many people you need to be benched. If I had to bench 1 player, it'd be Bueno, of course. I'd definitely bench him. If I had to bench another one, well, James, because he's injured. So, yeah, I'd start Botman, Trippier, and Cancelo. Play Trossard or Bailey based on previous match. I mean, Bailey was poor against Liverpool. Trossard was ineffective. FPL-wise, I'd go for Trossard still. I think he's the better option. Yeah, that's true. Benrahma time. If I were to go for a West Ham player, maybe he's the one actually on penalties. And also, he's been looking really good in the last few game weeks for West Ham. So, yeah, I think Benrahma, then Bowen, then Krezor is the way I'd rank the West Ham assets right now. Martin Odegaard, 88 points at 6.4 million. De Bruyne, 92 points. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Odegaard was never really an FPL option before. He'd have some games where he did really well, but very inconsistent. And he's been a flat track bully this season. And yeah, he's been fantastic. It's actually really surprising, of course. Almiron Brace incoming. I would not mind that at all. Although I don't want Newcastle to get too carried away in a way, but obviously it's good to see them right up there. Start Wilson or Andreas? Probably Andreas, because I don't think Wilson starts. However, if you think Wilson starts, go for him all day long. I think he's the better option than Andreas. Who do I start this week? I'd go for Shaw still, oddly enough. Why would Cancelo be benched? Because Man City did really well in the last game. They could play Ake and also, I forgot his name already. The youngster anyway, as the right back. They could also play John Stones there as the right back, and they've got different options. Kyle Walker's still there in the mix. They've got so many options there, and Cancelo hasn't had too much match rhythm. I know he came on towards the end of the last game. I'm not saying he will be benched, by the way, and I'm probably going to start him because if he does start, I think he's got a great chance of returns, but look, why not? You know, Cancelo was literally benched in the last game, and City need to win absolutely every single game to win the title, it looks like at the moment. Kepa or Gaeta? Kepa. Would you recommend rolling the transfer? Yeah, exactly. Unless you have to, unless you want to prevent someone like Bueno coming on and you're not really too sure about him, just roll the transfer, I think. Best 10 million attacker? Forward? Probably Mitrovic for me still. I know it's a different price point we're talking about, but, you know, who you on about? Maybe Havertz, you know, Nunez, you know, they'd be two of the best ones that are close to 10 million, but I'd rather go for Mitrovic, to be honest. Yeah, Sajid, I literally answered your question. There's no need to put in caps and spam the chat. Hey, Dylan, Thiago Silva Shaw, we answered that already. Will Alba start? I don't think so. Yeah, Rico Lewis, thank you for correcting me. I don't know why my mind went black. I nearly said some completely different name. I think I nearly said Dewsbury Hall. Do you think De Bruyne will haul? Yes, I do. And I wouldn't sell him for Salah, especially for a hit this week. Yeah, Rico, thank you as well. I have Kulusevski, or do I keep, or who do I swap for? I'd keep him. I'd keep him for now. In the long term, I'd swap him for Saka. Maybe someone else like Rashford. You know, depends on which players you have or don't have already. But yeah, I'd keep him for this week. Overall happy on my team. Tempted to roll the free transfer. Could do the sideways Dalot to Shaw and bench White. Honestly, I'd probably just roll the transfer because Dalot could be available by game week 19 and he might have a double in 20. So I'd just keep him. Why Trossard this week? I'm not that convinced about him, but you know, he does well typically against the big teams. He scored against Arsenal the last time these two teams faced in the Premier League. And to be honest, I made a conscious decision to go Trossard and go for a midfield 5. I still think he's one of the best midfielders in the game, but he can be very frustrating. Of course he can. Shaw, James to Shaw or roll the transfer for double game week? I'd roll the transfer. It just depends though, Arca, because if you have someone, you know, quite poor coming on, or, you know, maybe Andreas, Bueno, Patterson, and you don't think they'll return, then do the transfer. Otherwise, roll it. It will be very beneficial in the next week, potentially. Start Shaw or Gabriel? I would go for Luke Shaw this week. Would you start Andreas or Martinelli? I'd go for Martinelli. Fernandes to Mount and Adams to Havertz for a -4. It looks pretty decent, and you're attacking the double game week. I'd do it, but I'm still going to say the same thing. I don't like Chelsea assets that much, including Havertz and Mount, especially in the long term, but I think that could pay off for game weeks 18 and 19 in particular. Who in James' place? Ben White, Botman, Luke Shaw, Robertson. Take your pick. Depends on what you're looking for. If you've already got one or two Newcastle defenders, you don't want another one, then go for one of the others. You know, it just depends on your situation. So that's why I kind of just limit it to that 4 that I've mentioned all stream, basically. Martial played 65 and scored thanks to poor keeping. Yeah, that is true. It was a really poor shot, actually. He should have saved it. Should I replace him with Mitrovic for the double game week? I'd still hold, and then you'd have 2 free transfers, and then you could bring in Mitrovic, because remember, you can bring in Mitrovic now, and then he misses the first game of the double next week. So I'd rather do it this way, and Martial against Wolves, I think he could return there. Botman or Gabriel to start? Botman. Foden, White, Botman, bench 1, play 2. The one I would bench is White, because as much as I don't think Foden starts, I think if he does, he's got a great chance of returns, and with Ben White, I could see Brighton scoring a goal or 2. So I'd go for Botman and Foden to start. Start Shaw or Martinelli? I would go for Luke Shaw. Thank you very much, Basanta. I appreciate it. Do you think you will keep Kepa for the rest of the season? No, I don't think I will. But for the time being, yes. And then we'll see what happens. Because even if, you know, Chelsea don't keep that many clean sheets, but Kepa can make a lot of saves, maybe get some bonus points sometimes, I'd be happy with that. And, you know, spending a minimal amount in the goalkeeper position, and that enables me to go for the, more expensive defenders, midfielders, and forwards. And it also depends on the doubles, the future ones. We're talking about the ones in 29 and also beyond that. So a lot could change. Martinelli or Mount or Martial, bench one. Probably Martinelli I'd bench. It's between him and Martial. I think Martinelli is a better option than Martial. And look, it's 50-50. I'd probably say one, in 1 second and then one in the other. I'd start Mount because of the fixture, but I think generally, FPL-wise, he's the worst of the three. Sell Martinelli, Mount for Almiron? No. I'll be honest, I think Almiron is much better than Mount, but with Mount having Nottingham Forest and then a double game week, it doesn't make sense to sell him. Hey, Dylan Wilson up for a hit or start White Andreas? I'll probably start White or Andreas. I wouldn't take a hit for that. Thoughts on Chelsea defenders? I don't think they're that great. Remember, they've got a double of Fulham and Man City. Do you think they'll keep a clean sheet? If you do, then that's fine. One clean sheet and then maybe 1 or 2 points in the other game. That's not too shabby, right, on paper. You've also got Forest just before that. So I think they're okay for the time being. Cucurella, probably the best of the lot. But I also prefer Shaw, Ben White, Botman, even going above. So if you want to replace James or Cancelo, going to Robertson instead or Trent. So honestly, Chelsea defenders, they're fine, but I think they're better options elsewhere. Hey, mate, Martial, Andreas, who to start? I'd go for Martial. Tony or Mitrovic to replace Martial, feeling you're blank. If that's the case, then I would go for Mitrovic. But just bear in mind, both Tony and Mitrovic, they could be suspended. And Tony's hearing, I think, is on the 4th of January. So he should be available for the next 2 games. But after that, anything can happen. With Mitrovic, 1 yellow card, he's going to be suspended for the next game. Bear that in mind, but I would go for him. Should I sell Wilson to Mitrovic? For free, potentially. I think it's worth it because I don't think Wilson starts. Would I do it for a hit? No. I just play someone else. Have them come off the bench and then you can deal with it later. Start White or Andreas? I would go for Ben White personally, but Andreas is a decent option against Southampton, I have to say, and I could be wrong about him in Game Week 18. Start Martial or Andreas? I'd go for Martial. Double Game Week players in or Shaw for James? Thoughts? Well, Shaw could have a double in 20 anyway, so I'd just go for Shaw personally. Because, what double game week players are you looking at? Cucurella maybe? A Fulham defender? I mean, I'm not that, optimistic about the chances, so I'd go for Shaw. Trying not to spam the chat, by the way, because your question literally won't be read out. We're trying to go for as many questions as possible, and I do want to answer, but yeah, there's no need to spam. By Cucurella, Shaw for James, I would go for Shaw still. But if you want to attack the double, then it makes sense to go for Cucurella. Just bear in mind that Shaw could also have a double in 20 as well. Would you take a -4? No, I wouldn't do that. I've said this before. Even for free, I think I'd keep De Bruyne. I don't think there's much in it between the two until the end of the season. De Bruyne is facing Everton, remember that, and he's got a great chance of returns. The only concern would be if he gets benched because City have so much depth. They could bring in a Bernardo Silva and not really feel the absence of De Bruyne against Everton. Bench Foden. I don't think he starts, but it's an odd one because if I kept him, then I'd probably still be inclined to start him just in case he does, and he could do really well, of course. No, I wouldn't go for Castagna right now. Leicester, after their performance against Newcastle, that just fills me with doubts again, and I'm happy just to have Ward, really. Yeah, sure, Trippier Cancelo looks fine, but you could go to Robertson. You could even go to Ben White as well, for example, or even go for a Chelsea defender if you wish, but I wouldn't go for Castagna right now. Thoughts on Kane captain? I like it. I think he's blanked, or he hasn't scored in the last 3 games against Villa, but he's got a great record against them generally. What Man City defender is most nailed apart from Cancelo? It seems like a Kanji at the moment, but it could change, of course. Who will I captain in Game Week 19? Of course, that's looking a bit further ahead, but if we go now to FPL.team, this is what I have currently in terms of my Game Week 19 plan. So, yeah, ignore that. It literally says Kane, captain and vice-captain. I think I would look to captain Harry Kane at the moment, but with 2 free transfers, what I could do, I might even take a hit here, by the way. So I could do something like this. Do Greenwood to Mitrovic, if he isn't suspended, by the way. Then I would need a bit of money. So I do Trossard down to Andres Pereira, potentially. And then after that, I would need... I don't think I need 0.3 million, by the way. It might just be 0.1, although there were price rises, so maybe that is correct, actually. So in order to find the money I need, I might even downgrade someone like Cancelo, potentially, and then bring in Robertson. So actually, I'd have enough money to do something like this next week. So yeah, I could do something like this. I'd play Mitrovic, and I'd probably bench... let's see... That is an interesting one. Who do I bench? Oh my god, that is a tough one. I would ideally bench a defender here, but yeah, probably Almiron then. I'll bench him. It's going to backfire, isn't it? So yeah, we'll do something like this. I'll probably captain Mitrovic, something like this, and then vice-captain someone like Kane and go against the mould here. And that would be my plans for Game Week 19, potentially. This could change. You will find out in the team selection video as well, where I'll be confirming, my updated plans and also in future streams and stuff. But for the time being, this looks pretty good actually for Game Week 19. And, I could easily do that. Just for a -4 hit, I bring in a few double Game Week players and Andrew Robertson as a mega differential at the back. The only downside is that I have no City coverage defensively. And also, I'm taking a hit. I'm getting rid of good players like Trossard as well. But that looks pretty decent as well. So that is a potential plan I'm looking at for Game Week 19. If I didn't bring in Mitrovic, by the way, who would I captain? Probably Harry Kane, I think. But I will reconsider this, and I'll see how these teams play in Game Week 18 as well before heading into Game Week 19. No, I don't think West Ham defenders are worth it, personally. Thank you, Sophia, for the shout-out. I appreciate it. Pereira or Martinelli? I prefer Martinelli. Start Andres or Almiron? I prefer Almiron, for sure. No doubt about it, actually. Why not double Newcastle defence? I might bring him in. We'll talk about this very soon. We've still got over an hour left for the deadline, and we could get some early team news, by the way, I think for 3 of the 4 teams involved today. Who should be first on the bench, White or Wilson? Look, I think Wilson has a better chance of returns if he starts, but I'm not so sure if he does. I actually didn't see Eddie Howe's recent comments about Wilson, so maybe if I saw that and he says something positive, then maybe I will reconsider that, but yeah. Yeah, it is risky, that is true, but it's also still, I'm going for a differential. If Cancelo's not nailed, then there's no point spending over 7 million on him. I think Cancelo will regain his place, and he will still be one of the best defenders in the game, but you never know with Pep Guardiola. I'm captaining Rashford. I wouldn't do that personally, but why not? Why not go different? And I think Rashford's never blanked against them. Well, that's the thing with Fulham. I mean, it's not necessarily just trust, because Andreas will then be on the bench in future weeks. I like Mitrovic anyway. I know, to captain Mitrovic, I think maybe is a step too far. I do agree there, but it's not like I'm going for a defender or goalkeeper, and I think Fulham's attack is fairly decent, actually. Is Wilson going to be fit? I think he'll be fit enough for the bench, but not to start, personally. I could be wrong. Keep Bruno or sell? It's an interesting one. I'd probably roll the transfer and then sell him in 19. Almiron for Trossard, says Ayan. Yeah, looks pretty good to me. I know Trossard could do well against Arsenal, but I think Almiron's the better pick, for sure. Welcome, New Planes. In your opinion, should I play Andres and bench Martinelli? No. Look, if you think Andres is going to get returns, then fair enough, go for it. But I would go for Martinelli over Andres, personally. All right, let's go for a few other screens, actually, before we go back. And okay, so maybe the general consensus by people is that it's a bit too bold. That's fair enough. I mean, I might do something like this because I know I got a big rank rise just now and my team's been fairly template, but a few gambles like this could pay off. Look, like I said, it's just like an initial reaction, something I could do. It's the aggressive plan. I will be considering other avenues, but let's go to another question. No, exactly. Not much love for Chelsea. Exactly that. The double is Fulham and Man City. I don't think Chelsea are great defensively. I've already got Kepa, and I don't think Mason Mount is a particularly great FPL option. So, yeah, I think that just about covers it. So, let me get this question off, and let's go to a few other screens as we typically do, just to change things up a little bit. So, the fixture ticker, Man City remain top of it. Fulham are second, Chelsea are third, but it's mainly because they all have double game weeks pretty much. You've also got Arsenal in there with a double in 23, it looks like. And also you've got the likes of Southampton in the top 5, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, Liverpool, West Ham also completing the top 10. Spurs with a double game week as well. The double game week is that bad that Spurs are still mid-table with a double game week over the next 6 game weeks. So that's pretty interesting. That is the fixture ticker. In terms of who's bottom, you've got the likes of Everton, Wolves, Palace, Man United, and Leicester. But United could have a double in Game Week 20, and I think the game that's most likely to be rearranged there is Leeds. So that could change, and United will then catapult up into, I'd say, the top half easily of this fixture ticker. But let's wait and see. It also depends on what happens in the FA Cup as well. In terms of predicted points, Haaland is first with almost 10 there, 9.9. Harry Kane is second, Salah third, and that kind of backs what I'm saying with the captaincy. If I were to go away from Haaland this week, it probably would be Kane. But Salah, it's close between him and Kane. It definitely is. But with Haaland and the form he's in facing Everton, I just can't go beyond him. Now, maybe City will rotate a little bit. Maybe bring in Cancelo, Foden, maybe bench some key players like De Bruyne. You just never know. There's such a quick turnaround for some of these teams. But I think I'm still going to go for Haaland as the captain, unfortunately. You've got Darwin in there as well in the top 5. Heung-min Son, Almiron, Cancelo, and Foden completing the top 10. So as you can see, the algorithm is really backing City, Liverpool, and Spurs this week. And I have to say, I tend to agree. In terms of top 6 clubs, I think they have the best fixtures on paper. So let's go through the price changes as well. I'll also refresh it just so it's up to date. So according to this website, FPL Statistics, it's really reliable, by the way, for price rises. Rashford, Salah, Kepa, Robertson, Saka, Mason Mount, and maybe even Trippier today will go up in price. Mitrovic, by the way, is on a roll. He's already gone up in price by 0.2 million since the game has relaunched, and he could go up by another 0.1 million by the time tonight ends. I think he'd probably go up tomorrow, maybe even on Sunday. But yeah, that's looking pretty interesting as well. In terms of price falls, we've only got Trossard and Foden. I've obviously got Trossard, so I might have a decision to make. Maybe I'll make an early transfer today and do that aggressive plan like I said, or do something else entirely. But Trossard, it's not looking too good. And it's a bit of a shame that we don't have the Brighton game today, so that maybe I can get a bit more information and then maybe make a final decision on Leandro Trossard. But the last thing I want to show you, before we go back to my team, is this tweet by Ben Crellin. He's obviously very reliable when it comes to double gaming. So let me try and get this. Yeah, there we go. The message is now gone. So Ben Crellin does say this. Man United have a 70% chance of doubling in Game Week 20. And he does, provide details in this thread. And he says, in his opinion, it's going to be Leeds that will fit into that game. So just check that out, check that tweet out. But like I said, United have a decent chance, actually, of a double game week in 20. But it also depends on the FA Cup round 3. So let's now go back to my team. And I might make a change here. No transfers, but I might make a change in my starting 11. De Bruyne or Salah? Like I said before, I prefer Salah. But would I do De Bruyne to Salah? No. Would I do it for a hit? Even more, I'd say no. Trossard or Odegaard? For this game week, I actually prefer Trossard, but in the long term, I think Odegaard is looking better, for sure. Trossard or Andreas Pereira? I'd say Trossard still. Should I replace Wilson for a -4? Probably not. If you've got decent cover on the bench, Aiden, don't do the hit. Just wait until next week to do it for free. Oh no, Rashford price rise. I wanted to roll the transfer and get him next week. Well, think about it this way. The deadline is today, of course. So if you're talking about wanting to make this transfer for Game Week 19, Game Week 19, then you should be fine. You can make the transfers today for Game Week 19, and you will be able to roll the transfer now. So you don't need to get Rashford in now, by the way. So just wait for the deadline to pass in around 1.5 hours' time, and then you can make your transfers ahead of Game Week 19. So don't worry about that, unless, you've already made transfers and stuff like that. Hi Dylan, would you bench Andreas or Wilson? It's really risky, and I could be wrong about this. I've said this multiple times, but I'd probably bench Wilson because I don't think he'll start. If he does, then I would definitely regret that decision, of course. But my gut feeling is that he won't start, so I would go for Andreas Pereira. Keep or sell Trossard, and in that case, for who? I'm keeping him for now, and I don't think it's a bad hold in the long term. But if I were to sell him, I would definitely look towards Rashford, Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka even, those sorts of players. It just depends who you have or don't have already. I don't think I'd go for Mount, but he's another one you could consider. Shaw or Cucurella as a James replacement? Luke Shaw for me. Martial to Mitrovic or roll, Marco. And do Darwin to Mitrovic next game week? Yeah, exactly. That's what I would probably do. Darwin to Mitrovic next game week, more money in the bank, and you can make another transfer, potentially. I probably would, JR, but it depends on your situation. Eze to Mount and Kane to Mitrovic if for a -4 and wait until next week for free. Thoughts? Looks good to me, to be fair. Well, that is until I see Harry Kane up for Mitrovic for a -4. I just wait to do it next week for free. I think Kane will outscore Mitrovic this week. And also, both of them are yellow card suspension risks. I don't think it's worth it. Eze to Mount looks great, but I'd do it next week, mate. Who to bench? Foden, Martial, Andreas. Look, Foden could be benched, and with that logic, you could just bench him, but I would probably bench Andreas. Emi Martinez, yes, I think he will play. And as for Lisandro Martinez, he's also back. He has been for 3 or 4 days, I believe. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good chance that the Argentine players will start to slowly but surely get back into the starting 11. McAllister's the one I have a big doubt about. I'm not sure if he makes it for tomorrow. Keep Darwin or get Mitrovic. I would get Mitrovic, but maybe next week. Look, my big concern with Mitrovic, I always say this, maybe I'm getting tired of repeating it, but it's just the yellow card suspension risk. If it wasn't for that, I probably would do it now. But with that in mind, I'd probably roll the transfer, have more information, and do it next week. Is it important to be patient and wait for Double Gameweek news? I think patience is a virtue in general, of course, but yeah, it can work in your favour, especially with United players. So, look, in Gameweek 19, a lot of us will roll the transfer now, have 2 in 19, and then use both of them to get more Double Gameweek players potentially. And then you'll have 1 free transfer for Gameweek 20, where United could have a Double Gameweek as well. So it kind of works both ways. I think being cautious can be very, very important. Of course it can. Just don't go gung-ho. Don't chase points. That's definitely what you don't want to do. Don't just get in Mitrovic now because you've got 15 points. Only get him if you really back him from the start, like many of us have. Triple captain Salah, not for me personally. I don't think it's a bad choice, but I don't think Salah at home to Leicester is a better triple captain than Haaland against Everton, or Haaland in the Double Gameweek, or even Salah in the Double Gameweek. And I think Salah will have better hauls and better fixtures in the weeks to come. So, not for me. Is Bueno a regular starter? I don't think he's nailed on. That's as simple as that. Is he going to start most games? I think for the time being, yes. But is that going to be the case, for the next 3-4 months? I'm not so sure. I think Aït-Nouri could get his place back. And also, another thing to consider that could work in Bueno's favour is that Aït-Nouri predominantly plays more advanced than Bueno and will sometimes change shape. But he typically does play as a left mid or left winger for Wolves there. I'm talking about Aït-Nouri there, by the way. Is Wilson a sell? I'd say so, because even if he's available, plays against Leeds, do you trust him to have a run of 5-6 games where he doesn't have any illnesses or injuries? I don't personally. James to Cucurella or bench James and start White? I'd start White, roll the transfer, and then maybe bring Cucurella in next week or bring in Luke Shaw or someone else. I think Fernandes is okay, but I don't think he's been the same player FPL-wise in the last year or so. So, is he good? Yeah, he's decent. He could have his weeks where he does really well like he did against Spurs, but do I trust him to make the difference for you regularly? No, I don't. Sell Saka for next game week for Mount? No. I think Saka's better. I wouldn't sell Saka for Mount. The only way I'd consider that is if you roll the transfer now, get Mount in next week, have 1 free transfer, so then going into game week 20 you have 2 again, and then you can bring Saka back in. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. Hi Dylan, -4 for Mitrovic and Cancelo for James and Darwin. No, because you're bringing Cancelo, who might not even start, in my opinion. So, no, I wouldn't do that. Should I start Wilson or Solanke? Look, normally I'd say Wilson, but I'm not so sure if he starts. So maybe I'd go for Solanke. Would you use your triple captain in Game Week 20 or 23? I'd probably save it for later, Karaki, but it all depends on how things line up. It might not be United against Leeds in Game Week 20. It could be another fixture. And in Game Week 23, I'm not so sure if I triple captain someone there. So my current answer is I'm saving it for another double game week with more appealing fixtures. Thank you, Leonardo. Odegaard or Tony to start? I'd go for Ivan Tony. Mo Salah or De Bruyne? I prefer Salah, but I would not sell De Bruyne for Salah or vice versa. I think I've answered this already, but I would... I think I would. The thing is, though, it's a luxury move, and you might benefit more by having 2 free transfers, rolling it now, and having more opportunities, more transfers, more flexibility in Game Week 19. So you have to weigh that up yourself, because I don't know the rest of your team. But on paper, I think Shaw's better than White this week, yes. And he might have a double in 20. Any news on Isak? He could be a goal machine if he can start for Newcastle the way they're playing. I haven't seen any updates on him recently, but I would not expect him to be in the starting 11 for a few more game weeks at least. So, no. And either way, you've got Wilson, Wood to contend with as well. Yeah, Alpha, we've answered that question already. Salah captain for vibes. I would say only go for it if you really think he's going to do well. I don't think vibes or going different is a good enough excuse or reason. Chance of a Cancelo start. Look, I would go for Cancelo over Andreas and, just play it, just in case Cancelo does start, but he might not. It's as simple as that. Who should I bench? Mount, Darwin, Martinelli. I would bench probably Martinelli. It's between him and Mount to bench, I think. Bench Saliba or Cucurella? I would bench Saliba this week. Once again, no. Definitely not. I wouldn't even do it for free. Potentially, John, but not yet. I think Nunez will still remain in the team for the next few weeks. Obviously, Firmino's now back in training as well. But Gakpo can play as an attacking midfielder. Liverpool can go with a 4-2-3-1 potentially in certain games, especially if they're chasing a game or trying out different tactics and formations within the game. Gakpo doesn't just play on the left. He can also play just behind the striker, and he could also play up front alongside a Nunez. So yeah, he could hurt the chances, but he could also provide the creativity that Nunez needs as well. So I don't think it'll be as detrimental as some people believe. Keep or sell Trossard if sell them, then best replacements. I'd probably keep for now and then sell him next week potentially for a Saka, Mount if you want to chase a double game week, Martinelli, Odegaard, and also Rashford. Those are the kind of players I'd look at. Cancelo or White, who would you start? I'd still go for Cancelo because if Cancelo does start, I think he has a much better chance of returns. Who would I bench from those? Says Mickey. Probably Saliba. Arteta just said that Tomiyasu is available this game week. Is Ben White a rotation risk? I think Ben White, look, he started every single game this season. I don't see a reason for him to be benched all of a sudden. The thing is, in this game against Brighton, Arteta could go for something different to maybe mitigate the likes of Trossard or Mitoma when he comes on and bring in someone like Tomiyasu. And Tomiyasu could also play on the left-hand side, but I think Ben White will continue to start. I wouldn't be too worried about that. Could be wrong, but I think Ben White is fine anyway. Where is Martin Odegaard? Well, he's not on my team. I can't cover absolutely everybody. I've already got Martinelli, so yeah, you can't just have everyone. Choose a Stupinian over Shaw, as I thought I'd bench him until the possible double, triple game week. Now it looks like Shaw will double and not a Stupinian. Yeah, exactly. That's another reason why I brought in Trossard. Things can change very quickly, and that's why it's good to be flexible and to have backup plans just in case. Saka's playing Newcastle Man as a double game week. Yeah, look, like I said, for game week 19, of course, I would rather have Mount than Saka, and even possibly in game week 18, but who would I rather have until the end of the season or for the next 5 to 10 game weeks? It'd be Saka. So it's completely up to you. Will Pulisic start? I think he will, but I wouldn't be too sure about that. He's been very inconsistent with starts. Worth benching Martinelli or Martial for Andreas? Not for me. Maybe a Martinelli, but I wouldn't do it. Botman in 11 for Trossard. I am considering it, yes. And I'm going to put a poll out very soon as well, by the way. Thank you to everyone who's been watching, by the way. It's very much appreciated. If you haven't already, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. It really helps out the channel. We're trying to get to new goals. And let me actually just change this. I think this has been rearranged a little bit. So let's see if we can change that. All right, that should be better. All right, so yeah. If you haven't already, you know what to do. It'd be very much appreciated. And yeah, we are trying to get to new goals. And let's try to get this stream in particular to over 200 likes. Thank you very much to everyone who's already done so. It's much appreciated as always. Let's see. For some reason, that's not working. I'm going to double check that after. James Robertson, I like it. But you've also got some cheap defenders to consider. Ben White, Botman, Shaw, Cucurella. You could consider them as well. But I do prefer Robertson over Cucurella, I have to say. Hi, play Cucurella or Doherty? I would still play Cucurella. Team leaks, Liverpool unchanged. Leicester have no Tielemans in their 11. The reason is unknown. Maybe it could be a transfer reason. That would be interesting. So, where did you get that from? I'm guessing it's from a reliable source. But yeah, let me know, Superstar. I appreciate you putting that in the chat. But yeah, Liverpool unchanged. That does not surprise me. I think Nunez is a good option this week. The same goes for Salah, of course. The likes of Robertson and Trent as well. Should I start Wilson or Solanke? We've covered this already. I'd go for Wilson. But like I said, there's a chance he doesn't start. It's completely up to you. If you think Wilson starts, just go for him. Don't overcomplicate it. Cancelo, Botman or Andreas start too. I would go for Cancelo and Botman. I'm not sure if Foden starts. My gut feeling is no, but it's so difficult to predict Pep, and I might get it wrong. Nathan Ake, John Stones, or Walker. From those three, probably Ake at the moment, but I think Akanji is maybe the most nailed. Best replacement for Reece James, White, Botman, sure. If you want someone a bit similar in price, Robertson. Kane and Garnacho out, Mitrovic and Rashford in. No, because that's for a -4 hit, and you're getting rid of Kane against Villa. I wouldn't do that. Elanga and Gyökeres to Everton. Interesting transfers. Thoughts on FPL? Wouldn't consider it because Everton are poor. Offensively, they don't offer much. I wouldn't go for those players. If they start showing some really good signs, on good underlying numbers, great performances or whatever, then of course I will reconsider. It's good to be open-minded, but no. Will we get Double Gameweek news before Gameweek 19 deadline? In terms of Double Gameweek 20 news, I'm not so sure. We should get it before the Double Gameweek 20, or should I say Gameweek 20 deadline. But for Gameweek 19, I'm not so sure, because there's a 2-week gap between 19 and 20. Sell Martial to Mitrovic or Trossard to Rashford, or just roll the transfer. Roll the transfer. Trossard to Rashford looks good, by the way, I have to say. But I'd probably roll the transfer. If I had to make one, it would be Trossard to Rashford. Thank you, Superstar, for the link. I appreciate that. I'll put it on screen as well, just for everyone to see too. So, let's see. Yeah, you see Kermit there, completely gone. So, thank you, Superstar. Botman or Cucurella says, Amin, a Botman. Botman for me. So, as you can see on screen, we'll read it out one more time. So, team leaks. Liverpool have an unchanged side from their 2-1 victory over Aston Villa. Leicester have no Tielemans in their 11, and the reason is unknown. So, there you go. And Sam, by the way, is another one in the know, but I think he just leaked lineups, aka team news and ticks. I'm actually going to check as well, by the way, on my phone, see if there is any other news. Yeah, no, there's nothing else as well. Yeah, so yeah, that's the only news really that we got from the game so far tonight. So yeah, good news for Liverpool players, those that have Salah and everything else. What was the reasoning of picking Trossard? One of the highest scoring midfielders this season, does really well in the big games like against Arsenal, so I think he's capable of a return. He also had the possibility of a double or triple game week very soon. It doesn't look like that will happen, so that has reduced his appeal for sure. And also he can play down the middle in a very good Brighton team that are 7th in the league, and Trossard has been very, very good this season. So I think there's a lot of good reasons to go for him, but it just hasn't worked out so far. And it's kind of hard to judge because it's only one game week. But when Brighton score 3 goals and Trossard isn't involved, that does, make you doubt the decision, of course. Do you think it's worth a -4 replacing James and Wilson for Shaw Mitrovic? I think it is worth a -4. I'm not a big fan because taking a -4 hit when you could maybe just roll the transfer, have 2 free transfers in 19, and then do those transfers then. But at the same time, you're getting rid of 2 players, one in James that's out indefinitely, and one that's a big doubt in Wilson. Yeah, I think it's worth a -4. Trossard or Ben White for the best 11? I would rather go for Trossard. I think there's a higher chance of Trossard doing something, whether it's a goal or assist, than Arsenal keeping a clean sheet. But maybe I'm being a bit pessimistic when it comes to Arsenal there. Do you think it's worth a -4 replacing? Yeah, sorry. Try not to spam the chat, please. Got Cucurella in for James. Get in. Yeah, that's a decent transfer. Should go Foden to Mount or hold for now? I would probably hold for now. I think Foden has a chance of starting. I'm not so sure if he does. I don't think he will. But if he does, I think he outscores Mason Mount. You can always bring in Mason Mount for the double. Thoughts on Kane as a differential captain? I like him. He's my vice. I'm actually considering him. If it wasn't for Haaland, he would be my captain this week, I think. So let's now go back to my team. So we've already covered that enough. I think I'm going to put in Botman in my starting 11. I'm going to put a poll out very soon. Let's see if I can put it out very quickly. Who would you start? So it's going to be between Botman, Trossard. Oh, I don't think I can add more options, but either way I think it's going to be between these 2, and yeah, I think that's how it's going to come down to. So all right, just give me a second. and Trossard. All right, there you go. That is the poll. Be sure to vote. And also, before, you know, we'll go back to this team, of course, but I just want to show you a few polls that I put out on my channel. So let's refresh the page. So yeah, in terms of your Game Week 18 captain, over 1,000 votes, so thank you to everyone who voted. 87% of you have gone for Erling Haaland, only 6% for Salah, 2% for Harry Kane, and 4% went with other. So it's absolutely unbelievable what Haaland's done to this game. It's even worse than Salah last season. And in terms of the benching dilemma, and this is what is, you know, the case for myself personally. So I said, which player would you bench from these four? 10% went with Martinelli, 12% with Shaw, 33% went with Botman, and 45% went with Trossard. And if we go to the poll that I put out just now, 59% of you have gone for Botman to start, now 60%. So it looks like most of you think that Trossard should be the one making way. But yeah, I agree, Lager, it is a really tough one. And I think it could backfire. And Trossard, you know, a lot of people are going to be selling him. Keeping him, a haul against Arsenal is definitely possible, and it could be a nice advantage over those that sold or that don't have him in the first place. I prefer Almiron over Odegaard, but I think Odegaard's been fantastic this season. But at the same time, you might have a Martinelli or Saka already. I just go for Almiron, to be honest. Martial versus Wolves or Mitrovic versus Southampton. Mitrovic for me. Once again, the only concern I have with Mitrovic is suspension. Apart from that, I think is a great option. Very consistent this season. I was also debating Shaw instead of Cucurella, but the doubles for Chelsea or Forest this week is better. True, but then when you look at both teams defensively, I don't think either of them are that great. But at the same time, I would actually maybe say United have been a bit better in recent weeks, actually. And you might have Kepa already. So there's a few things to weigh up apart from that. And United could also have a double in 20, which would include Leeds United dropping in that fixture in Game Week 20. I wouldn't do that personally, but it's not a bad idea. I don't think Martinelli is destined to score or assist against Brighton. I think Arsenal will struggle in this game, but I would play Martinelli still. So let's go back to my team. I appreciate everyone who has voted. It's good to see your thoughts as always. Just a reminder that the fixtures are West Ham against Brentford at 7:45, and we've also got an 8 p.m. kickoff in Liverpool versus Leicester, which is televised in the UK. And then tomorrow we have a lot of games. And by the way, let me know in the live chat very quickly, and I might even put another poll, as I tend to do. In terms of a reaction stream, if it's possible for me to do, would you rather me do it tomorrow after the Brighton-Arsenal game, which might not be a good idea, especially if Brighton win, or would you rather it happen after the 1st of January, so after the Nottingham Forest against Chelsea game, and then we'd have another stream the following day on the 2nd of January for the deadline of Game Week 19. So let me know your thoughts. Would you rather have the Game Week 19 reaction stream happen on the 31st of December, so tomorrow, or in 2 days' time on New Year's Day for 2023? So let me know. I have Trossard. Should I move him? I have Botman and Nketiah and White on the bench. I would start one of those on your bench for sure. Probably Botman or Nketiah. I think Trossard over White, but I would rather go for Botman or Nketiah over Trossard. But I think Trossard's still a good option this week. I'm starting Botman over Shaw this week, says John. Fair enough. I don't blame you, and I really want to start Botman, to be honest. Thank you, Rock and Roll. I appreciate that, as always. We're going to go back to my team, obviously, after the fixture roundup. Yes, I mean, triple game weeks is possible. It happened, I think, 2 seasons ago with United, a triple game week in 35. Brighton had the possibility, but I don't think it's going to happen now. Start Andreas or Trossard, I'd go for Trossard. Worth to bench Martinelli and play Andreas, like I said before, no. Cucurella over White, this week, yes. Long term, no. Bench Saka, Rashford or Andreas, I would bench Andreas. Who to start? Aubameyang, Pulisic, Mahrez, Chamberlain or Grealish? I know I shouldn't have any of them, but who should I start? Mahrez would be the one I'd start. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Trossard has a good record against big teams. He scored against Arsenal at the Emirates last time. Would Dalot play? I don't think so. I think he will come back into the lineup in Game Week 19. Adams or Martinelli? Martinelli. Why is rolling the transfer good? Because you get 2 free transfers in 19. You can start to get even more Chelsea players, or not just Chelsea players, other double Gameweek players like Mitrovic for those that went without him. And also, because you have more information by then, Mitrovic might have picked up a suspension after the Southampton game. So there's a lot of things, a lot of reasons why rolling the transfer is good. And also, because a lot of people are making transfers based off points from last week, but you have to give your team and your players time to prove themselves. Mitrovic or Martial? Mitrovic for me. Dallo's a doubt. Yes, of course he is, but he should be slowly but surely coming back. I think he's in training, and I don't think he'll start, but I think he will come back into the side very soon. Bench Almiron, Martial, or Martinelli? Probably Martinelli from those three. Hi, Dylan. Cucurella, White for James. I would go for White long term. Yeah, I think he's the better pick. But I know a lot of people would say the opposite. You know, Forest fixture, double Gameweek in 19, but I personally go for White. Welcome, Astravidan. Good to see you. Should I start Perisic or 8? Nuri says Moshin. I would go for Perisic. Yeah, Shrey, you've asked that question like 4 times. I've answered it. Bye-bye. I have in my team Rashford, Martinelli, Almiron, KDB, Nunez, Haaland, and Mitrovic. Anyone would be benched for Trossard? No. I wouldn't bench any of them for Trossard, I think. It's a close one, though, but no. It could backfire. I mean, Martinelli's the only one I think that I would consider to bench. Everyone else, no. I would start Saliba still. Yep. Happy New Year to you as well, Astravidan. I appreciate that. If FPL doesn't apply... Oh, if FFP doesn't apply to Chelsea, should it apply on FPL? That's a great question. Yeah, I don't know with Chelsea. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of their sales, so I could be misinformed here, but they spent, what, 300 million last year in the summer? They broke the record, and now they made like a deal with Nkunku that could be up to 90 million, and also signing Enzo Fernandez for 120 million. I mean, that does seem very dodgy, but I don't know. I don't know the information. I could be wrong, but yeah. I don't think FFP has ever really applied to Chelsea. If it did, it might be a different story. I've decided Bailey to be my differential this week. Last week it was Shaw. Good luck with that. I was not impressed by Bailey at all against Liverpool, but, you know, you never really expected him to haul in that game anyway. Should I take a -4 for Azpilicueta to replace James? No, no chance. No. Just do the transfer for free next week, or you might even prefer someone else by that point. Hi Dylan, who should I replace James with this week? I have Trippier, Shaw, Bueno, and Patterson. I would go for Ben White or Cucurella. Even Robertson as well, by the way. So if you have the money, I would go for Robertson. If you don't, I'd go for White or Cucurella, depending on what you want. Do you want someone long-term? In that case, go for White. If you want someone for the next 2 or 3 game weeks, I go for Cucurella. Keep Solanke or get Mitrovic, knowing that I have Andreas. I'd probably get Mitrovic, just bear in mind that it is a risk, because the yellow card is always looming over him. I prefer Salah, but I wouldn't do a transfer from one to the other. No. I would just do Wilson to Mitrovic. I would not do KDB to Salah. Mitrovic to Wilson for a -4? No, I wouldn't do it for a -4. If you're going to bench Trossard, I'd go for Rashford instead, mate. Rashford has a great away record and performs against big teams. If you're going to bench Trossard, I'd go for Rashford. Well, I have Rashford already in my team. He's in my starting 11. And I wouldn't bench him, I think, for Trossard this week. Start Andres or Martinelli? I would go for Martinelli. I am not going to bench Botman. I'm going to bring him in, so don't worry about that. Callum Wilson start? I don't think so, but I could be wrong. Welcome, Raf. Good to see you. In terms of news, the only thing we've got is that Liverpool have an unchanged side and that Tielemans isn't in the starting 11 for Leicester, and the reason is unknown. I think Havertz is okay. Obviously, he looked really good the other day, but would I spend a precious slot on him? No, because I don't trust Chelsea beyond Gameweek 19, where they have a difficult double anyway. And you've got so many good strikers, you know, the premium ones that don't even need mentioning. You've also got even Nunez, and also the very cheap and effective strikers like Tony, Mitrovic, Nketiah, Martial. So I wouldn't go for Havertz, but he is not a bad option for the next 2 game weeks. Once again, Bilal, I'd go for Salah. Would you move on from Cancelo if he doesn't start again? Yes, and I'm looking at Robertson potentially. Start Andreas or Foden? I would go for Foden. Shaw or Doherty? I'd go for Shaw. Nunez or Mitrovic? I would go for Mitrovic, but would I sell Nunez to Mitrovic? Maybe not this week. And would I do it for a hit? Definitely not. Martinelli to Saka or Martial to Mitrovic? I'd rather do Martial to Mitrovic, but it's a very luxury transfer. Play Wilson or Somerville? I'd probably play Wilson, but Somerville should be back in the starting 11 next game week or the one after. As for Wilson, it's probably a bit less likely, but at the same time, if he does start, I think Wilson has a great chance of returns. Start Dallo or make a transfer? I'd probably make a transfer, mate. Start Shaw or White? I'd start Shaw, sorry. Start Andres or Martinelli? I think we've got that question probably 50 times today. I'm going to go for Martinelli. That's the final answer. Start Martial or Andreas? I'd go for Martial. As a Geordie and as good as Newcastle are, Leeds have only failed to score in 4 of their 15 league games, so I wouldn't double up this week. Fair enough. That's a good point. I actually wasn't aware of that, so thank you for that. That is true, but Newcastle defensively have been rock solid, and Leeds, I mean, they probably should have scored a second against City, but, you know, apart from that, you know, if it wasn't for the first goal coming in, I think City would have easily kept the clean sheet, and Leeds weren't really offering much throughout most of the game, but goals change games. They got the first one, and they looked much more dangerous afterwards. They got the momentum and belief. Here's a good point, though. Leeds are a decent side offensively, but I still like Newcastle defensively, I have to say. That's a good question. I think Gakpo will probably start by Game Week 2021, if I have to give a rough guess. I don't think he'll start any of the next two. There's kind of an 11-day break between Game Weeks 19 and 20, so I'd say Game Week 20 onwards is when he should start games, or be in contention to start. Darwin to Mitrovic for -4? No. -4 for Havertz in for Martial? No. Do it next week. And even then I'd be reluctant, because Martial could have a double in 20 anyway, and I think he's a better option. Best James replacement other than Shaw? Robertson or Ben White? Botman's always in the conversation as well, by the way. James replacement, Cucurella, Shaw or Gabriel? I'd go for Luke Shaw. Best City defender for the coming weeks after Cancelo? Probably a Kanji, but that could easily backfire. I just couldn't tell you who's the most nailed for Manchester City defensively. I would go for Martial. I have one free transfer. Should I use it on Reece James? I would only do that if you have no good cover off the bench, whether it's Andreas, maybe a Ben White, whatever. If you have someone like Patterson or Bueno coming on, then I would make the transfer. I would make the transfer, like I said before. Best captain this week, I think it's Haaland. Then it'd probably be Kane, then Salah, then De Bruyne. It could, you know, 2 to 4 is easily interchangeable, but that is my top 4. Short in for James or save free transfer? I would save the free transfer unless you have no good cover, once again. Should I start Dunk or go James to Cucurella and then start him? I would do James to Cucurella and start him. Anyone remember that Salah missed a penalty versus Leicester? Yeah, that is true last season, but it's a completely different scenario, I think, this time around. Will Martial start this game week? Yes, I think he will. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't. Start Zaha or Solanke? I'd start Zaha. Sell James or bench him for White? I think benching him for White is fine, but you might be a bit like me and you're not that confident of an Arsenal clean sheet, and if you really aren't, you know, and you think Arsenal will concede, then I would sell him. But otherwise, I think White's decent cover in general. Darwin for Mitrovic for -4 this game week? No. I've answered this already. I wouldn't do it for a -4 for sure. Do I start? Okay, thank you for doing that, Harry. So yeah, no point going for that question. I don't use the wildcard cheap this season. I want to know about wildcard expiry date. Well, if you didn't use your wildcard, then that wildcard would have vanished. So basically, you get one wildcard for the first half of the season and one for the second half. If you didn't use the first one, that will be eaten up and you have one wildcard remaining. You can't carry it over. So yeah, you can use a wildcard now, but it would be the second one and then that's it. You wouldn't have another one. So don't use it now if you can. I would save it for later in the season, to be fair. Zaha or Mount? I think for this week I'd go for Zaha, but in the long term I think Mount is a slightly better pick. Play Arsenal defender or United? I'd go for United defender this week. Martial was subbed early last week to give him rest to start this week. I'm confident he will. I don't think it's a particularly great option, and his goal was rather fortunate, but he's a decent, you know, value striker. He's going to play down the middle for United, who are looking better and better, and I think he's a decent choice as a result. But if I had to pick someone around a similar price, of course, Mitrovic, Tony, Nketiah would be my picks, but I think he's decent, yeah. And I don't see him getting 90 minutes here, maybe 70, 80 this time around. But Martial, the big problem with him always is the injuries, the fitness. It's very, very rare for him to get a consistent run of 5 to 10 games without getting injured. Do you think Benrahma's nailed Dylan? I think for now he is. One or two bad performances could change that, but he has been West Ham's best player, I'd say, over the last 2 or 3 games. I put White on a bench because I think Brighton will score a goal, and I put Andreas. Yeah, I think it's worth a risk. Of course it is. What else do we have? Start Martinelli or Foden? I'd go for Martinelli because I just don't expect Foden to start. Darwin or Martial to Mitrovic? I'd rather do Darwin to Mitrovic. I have KDB and Salah. Should I transfer one for Funds Nunez? I don't see the reason to do that. I would actually keep KDB and Salah. You've got 2 of the best captaincy options this week. I'd keep them. Will Wilson play? I might be wrong about this. My feeling is that he'll be benched and maybe he'll start in game week 20 or something like that, but I don't see him starting now. Thoughts on Kulusevski? If I had him, I'd hold. If I didn't have him, I wouldn't consider him for now, and the only Spurs player I'd go for is Harry Kane. Is it worth making a transfer replacing James for a Chelsea defender? Yes, but I would maybe roll it unless you have poor cover off the bench this week. Went KDB, Martial, Kulusevski and Estupinian over Salah, Havertz, Saka and Shaw. Lost 29 points and bench Trippier. Worst gaming, but I think I'll roll and not be hasty. Yeah, exactly. It's important not to overreact because the players you did go for, KDB for example, is fantastic and it's a completely understandable pick. Obviously, Estupinian, we thought that Brighton could have a double or triple game week. It doesn't look like it will happen. So look, it's fine. I would not, be too worried. I'd just roll the transfer like you said. Hi Dylan, Perisic could replace him for James? I don't think so. Now, we all know Perisic's potential in FPL. He hasn't even scored a goal yet for Tottenham. We saw what he did for Croatia in the World Cup, what he's done historically for Inter Milan as well. I wouldn't go for him, though, because Spurs keep on conceding, and more importantly, they can see the first goal, which leaves them even more open after they go 1-0 down. They can concede a second goal, and then Spurs are just completely hell-bent on getting back into the game and leaving gaps in behind with a very slow backline in particular. So I wouldn't go for Perisic. I'd rather go for Shaw, Robertson, Ben White, Botman, etc. In Game Week 19, play Andreas instead of Martinelli, potentially, but it's only because of the double, really. Who do I bench, Rashford or Martinelli? Probably Martinelli, but it's a close one. Like I said, with Kulusevski, I would hold for this week and then maybe sell him in Game Week 19. This week, I'd rather have Kulusevski, but Trossard does really well against the big teams. Remember that. Should I start Andreas and roll the transfer or bring Shaw, Robertson, Cucurella in for James? I would roll the transfer, start Andreas Pereira, see it, and then have 2 free transfers in 19, but that's just my opinion. Darwin to Mitrovic or Trossard to Foden or Mount? Probably Darwin to Mitrovic. Also on captaining Salah. He's my 3rd best captaincy option this week in my kind of rankings. I think he's a good option. Leicester are looking very poor. Tielemans not in the side. I'm not sure what's happening there. It could be another transfer saga. And Leicester looked very vulnerable against Newcastle. Having said that, Liverpool, they look very impressive against Villa offensively, but they also can be got at. And Leicester could score a goal or 2. It could be a high-scoring game. You just don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, Salah's a good option this week. We all know that. I think it's worth the risk going for him over Haaland, but with City facing Everton at home, with Haaland's form, it's just hard for me to go past them, unfortunately. I'd go for Shaw. Sorry, like I said before, I wouldn't go for Cucurella over Shaw. Especially if you already have Kepa Arrizabalaga. Should I have Greenwood or Dunk as first sub? Probably Greenwood, although he's facing Newcastle. What else do we have? Welcome, Jeff. Good to see you. Welcome, Matt. Martinelli, Rashford, Trossard. In terms of who do I prefer from those 3, probably Rashford this week. Long term is Martinelli. Thoughts on Darwin to Mitrovic and De Silva to Mount next game week? 2 free transfers. Looks good to me, mate. Looks fantastic, actually. I like that. I'm not a big fan of Mason Mount, but that's clearly an upgrade and you will benefit from those transfers. James to Shaw and play Shaw or play Trossard and save transfer? I'd play Trossard and save the transfer. Martial to Mitrovic or Fernandes to Almiron? I do like Fernandes to Almiron, to be fair. It could be an awkward one, but I think I'd do that. Don't have any Arsenal players. Do you think it's risky? I mean, Arsenal, like you said, have tough fixtures. I don't think you need to have them, but I would have 1 or 2. Not a triple up with the fixtures in mind, of course, but I think 1 or 2 is the sweet spot. Should I get Mitrovic? I mean, you could get him, but just bear in mind he's a yellow card risk, and you spam the chat, so no more is going to be said on that. On Arsenal, do you see Modric and Felix as realistic, and do you think we could push City all the way? I think Arsenal could do it. They could go all the way and win it, but they need to invest, I think. They need to get a bit more squad depth because you could see there just one injury to Jesus, and now you've got Nketiah, and then if he gets injured, you've got Martinelli down the middle, and then who do you play on the left? Maybe Smith Rowe, but he's injury prone. So, cracks start to appear when certain players get injured, and that includes Jesus, Odegaard in particular, Thomas Partey, one of the centre-backs, Gabriel Saliba. So it's very important that Arsenal can keep their spine fit and their key players. If they can, and they add one or two quality players, then yeah, are they realistic? I'd say so, but Felix, literally just a year or two ago, was worth 100 billion. So I still think you have a lot of value, and it might require a loan first or something ridiculous like that, or add-ons, a lot of add-ons to make that viable. It's a really difficult situation, and I think it is helped by the fact that Felix is having a poor time at Atletico Madrid. But yeah, honestly, what are we talking about? Probably 140 million for both of them, maybe even more. Shakhtar apparently won 100 million euros for Modric. I don't think he's worth that, and if that's the case, then I'd look elsewhere. Is Fernandes to Bowen a good transfer? On paper it looks decent, but Bowen hasn't shown it. I know he won a penalty against Arsenal, but nowhere near the levels of last season, and I don't think he'll get to the same level. So it's a good transfer, yeah, on paper, but I think there are better midfielders like Saka, even Mason Mount for the time being. Nunez over Salah, most definitely. Not for me. I think Salah's a better option. I know Nunez obviously showed what he's capable of in game week 16. Obviously had the opportunities in 17, and he gets the bulk of the chances, but I think Salah's far more clinical. He's on penalties, he's very consistent, and he's more nailed on than Nunez. Started Darwin instead of Mitrovic last game week. It is understandable, though, because of everything Marco Silva said. Thank you, Jeff. Start Shaw or White, says Rothy. I would go for Shaw. James to Shaw or play White? I would play White and roll the transfer, have more information. I do prefer Shaw this week. I won't deny that, but I'd probably just play White because Arsenal still have a decent chance of a clean sheet. Which Kulusevski or Martinelli for Felix in the squad? For Felix? Who do I prefer from Kulusevski or Martinelli? Martinelli. My rank in the first season is 800k. Is it okay? Well, if you're talking about this as your first season, then 800k in December is fine, especially with the way this season has gone. And yeah, it's all about learning, enjoying the game most importantly of all. Rank is just something else on top, so I wouldn't look too much into it. But yeah, it's a good rank for your first season, of course. Started Darwin instead of Mitrovic last game week. Yep, yeah, we just covered that. What Arsenal players do you reckon is the best to have? Martinelli still for me, Ben White and Saka. Thoughts on Antonio? Just not for me. Another one like Bowen, nowhere near the levels of last season, and even then, Antonio had a really good opening 3 or 4 game weeks last season, then very inconsistent, and I just wouldn't go for him now. West Ham don't score enough goals, and they are looking in big trouble right now. I wouldn't go to Thiago Silva, but it's not a bad idea. Already transfer Martial to Mitrovic, is it okay? I wouldn't have done it personally, but Mitrovic is an upgrade in my opinion. My only doubt is if he gets a yellow card, you know the rest, but yeah. I wouldn't captain Martinelli, as I said before. I have James. Should I substitute for Estupinian or transfer for Shaw? I would transfer for Shaw. I think Brighton will concede, and Shaw has a decent chance of a clean sheet against Wolves. Should I do Foden to Mount this week? No. I would rather transfer, do it next week. Who do I start? Cucurella, Almiron, or White? I would start Almiron. What about Trippier? Well, I've got him. I don't think anything else needs to be said. I'd start him every week, to be honest. I think he's the best defender in the game. Yeah, Shakhtar's asking price is ridiculous, but if they're willing to come down, like reported, we could get Modric for 60 million. I still think that's too much, personally. I haven't seen much of him, only in the Champions League, but yeah, let's wait and see. I still think there's other areas that need improvement as well. If Partey gets injured, you've only got El Neni, or you have to bring Xhaka from the left centre mid position and then play him as a defensive midfielder. If that's the case, if Partey gets injured, then what Arsenal could do as well is bring in a McAllister, have him play there, and then have Xhaka slot in as a defensive midfielder. But the team suddenly changes too much there. So it's very important that Arsenal get the cover needed. And in my opinion, it's a Partey replacement, a winger, and a striker. Which clubs have double game week soon? Chelsea and Fulham have one in 19. You've got City in 20, and United could have one in game week 20 as well. And also Arsenal in game week 23. Start White. I'm not going to do that, but it's not a bad suggestion. Wow, you're almost at 17.5k. I remember when you were at 2.5k. Congrats on the growth. You totally deserve it. Thank you very much for watching since then. I appreciate that. And yes, the growth has been very, very good, especially I'd say between August to November in particular. right up until the start of the World Cup. The growth was great, and there are ups and downs, but I'm happy with what we've got. Hoping for more as well. And 20,000 is the next big target, and I think we can do that fairly soon, by the end of the Premier League season for sure. I want to buy Robertson for James. It's tempting, but I don't know if it's worth benching Martinelli, Martial, Shaw for Robertson. Just roll the transfer, Sudindra. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't do that just yet then. Cucurella or White, who is a better pick for this week? Cucurella for me. Should I get Robertson for James or play Trossard and Gabriel and roll and have 2 free transfers next week? I would, I'd roll and play Trossard. What do you think of Rico Lewis? I don't think he'll be nailed on, but he's been very impressive. In the Champions League, scored in his debut. He did very well against Leeds the other day too. I'm very impressed by him positionally and his intelligence, his game management. But would I consider him FPL? Not yet. Because you've still got Sergio Gomez, Cancelo, Walker, who are all fullbacks who will get game time as well. I don't see Rico Lewis starting week in, week out. Obviously, as a budget defender over Bueno Patterson, it could be ideal, or Nico Williams, but I wouldn't consider him just yet. Take the price drop with James for additional free transfer? Yeah, I would. Bench White or Andreas? I would bench Andreas personally, but you might think differently. Foden to Mount? Maybe next week. I wouldn't do it now. So after the Gameweek 18 deadline, which will be in around 40 minutes' time, will Perisic play? I believe so. I think Perisic, oddly enough, might be a bit more nailed on now than he was at the beginning of the season. Big plans for the new year, Dylan? Just with family, as usual. So not big plans. I know a few people are like gonna, go clubbing and stuff. I'm not so sure if I'm gonna do that, but yeah, I want to say big plans. But yeah, what about you? Let me know. Sorry. Play Trossard or Andreas? I would play Trossard. When will Alvarez return? I think by game week 19. He will definitely be available for game week 20. There's no doubt about that. But game week 19, I would expect him to be available and, at least in training and in contention to be on the bench and stuff. Ben Mee or Gabriel to start? I would go for... I think I'd go for Gabriel, but let me check that once again because I might reconsider. Yeah, I'd go for Gabriel. It's a close one, but Brentford haven't been great defensively, so that is my answer. Zaha to Foden? No, because Foden isn't even nailed on. He might not start this week. I would keep Zaha for this week and then sell him to someone like Saka or Mount next week. Yeah, Abraham, you said Thiago Silva a lot of times. Like I said, I don't really like him too much, to be honest. He's not a bad option, and Chelsea defenders will offer value in the next 2 game weeks, but I don't think Thiago Silva is that great of an FPL option. KDB to Salah? No. Maybe in the future, maybe in Game Week 19 with 2 free transfers, and you can use that, to do something else, but I would roll, like Twang asks. I would roll the transfer. I would not do KDB to Salah or vice versa. Captain Salah or Haaland? I'm going for Haaland, so that's my answer there. I'm actually considering Kane more for the captaincy than Salah this week. 8 million price for Gakpo. Yeah, I think it's a fair price. It's a good one, actually. Gakpo is a goals and assist machine, but he's also new to the league. And as a midfielder, very tempting. I prefer that over him being a forward, so there's a lot to like there. I've got Sanchez, Gabriel, and Trossard and Martinelli in the Brighton game. I don't think I'll get a lot of points this week. I mean, it's not too shabby, though. You should get points somewhere there, but let's wait and see. Hey, Dylan, Aspie or Shaw for the next 3 game weeks? Still Shaw for me. He could also have a double in 20. What do you think is best to transfer in White and or Martinelli? To be honest, it's kind of a tricky one because let's actually take a look at Arsenal's fixtures as well. So yeah, after this, you've got Newcastle, then Tottenham, then United. I'd honestly say get them in Game Week 22 ahead of Everton. You got Brentford, then you got City, but then some other good fixtures afterwards. So I'd say Game Week 22, mate, because the next 4 game weeks in particular look very poor, actually. So that's when I'd mainly get in on Arsenal players if you don't have them already. Yes, we're saying Perisic should play. Thank you very much, Abraham. Happy New Year to you as well. Who should I start with, White or Botman? I would start with Botman. Should I start Somerville? I wouldn't personally, but I would expect him to be back in the starting 11 in Game Week 18, if not Game Week 19. Got to relocate due to work, will be alone this holiday season. Yeah, that is an ideal thing. Hopefully you still enjoy your holidays and you can get in contact with your family and friends. But yeah, that is an ideal. I will be honest there. Will Wilson play? I don't think so. But let me actually just check Eddie Howe's comments because maybe everything I've said all stream has been, completely misguided. So let me check Eddie Howe's comments and then we can get you a better answer. So, the injury table, the famous injury table. So let me bring that up. Okay, so another website that I would recommend to all of you. So premierinjuries.com, they've got an injury table section. So if we now go down to, I've already forgotten the player we're talking about. That is not good. Wilson, so Newcastle. All right, let's take the comment out and let's bring up Newcastle. So the latest on Callum Wilson. Callum has improved. He trained with us yesterday, so he's in a better place. So that looks pretty positive. It's all down to a late fitness test. He's up to 75% chance of starting. So yeah, it's quite optimistic, actually. I still think Wood will start and Wilson will be on the bench. But there is a chance he starts, yeah. And as for Isak, because someone asked earlier, Eddie Howe said we haven't had him for a long period of time, so whenever he's fit and available, he'll come into our plan straight away. We need to make sure he is fit before exposing him to a match. So those are the latest updates. If you have any other players you want me to answer a question on, because I don't remember every single player and their injury situation off the top of my head, then let me know, ask me, and I'll try to bring up on screen for you so you can see. And you can also check out the website yourself, premierinjuries.com. That is a very good website. Thank you to everyone who voted. By the way, almost 300 votes. I'll let it get to 300 votes before ending the poll, but most of you have said start Botman over Trossard, which is quite interesting. Rashford worth a -4 hit. It depends who you bring out, but I would try to avoid a hit if you can. I wouldn't do it personally. So stuck, don't know if one of my players won't play. Which player is this? Vice captain Kane or Salah? I've gone for Kane, but both are fine. And either way, I don't think it'll be that important anyway, because Haaland will feature against Everton. I'm more confident of Cancelo starting than I would be with Foden, but at the same time, my gut feeling is that neither will start once again. Play Trossard or Andreas? I would play Trossard. Adil says, hey Dylan, probably going to roll the transfer and bench James this week, but I'm stuck over which two to start. I would start Martial Mount. Obviously, I'm a bit uneasy about benching Martinelli, but that's probably the play. And he's also the most highly owned of the three, so you're going against the 10 play. And if it goes right, you might get a big green arrow from that situation. So I'd bench Martinelli, I think, but it could backfire, of course. No. Honestly, I know they got the double, but Chelsea facing Fulham and City, I just don't see a clean sheet. If they were to get one, it would be against Fulham, you would say, but not for me, mate. Any odds for the Arsenal clean sheet? No, I'm not aware of any odds, but yeah, it's kind of a tough one. I mean, you look at the likes of Spurs, they're probably higher up on the odds for a clean sheet. Liverpool, Man City in particular, they probably have the best chance this week. Newcastle. But yeah, they'd probably be like 7th or 8th, I'd say. They'd maybe be a bit higher because of how good they've been this season, but I think Brighton have a good chance of scoring. All right, let's go back to the website and let's see if I actually finally bring in Botman or not. Let's see Trossard's ownership, by the way, 23%. So you look here, his big returns have come against Leicester, Liverpool, did blank against Tottenham, to be fair, at home, got a goal against Chelsea. Any other big team he played against? United away, got a 1-pointer there. That's interesting, but yeah, kind of mixed bag in the big games. But as you can see, one massive forward is possible, like he did against Liverpool. It's going to be tough. Double Newcastle defense, I like it. Whether it's now or in the long term, I like it. Martial out for Mitrovic -4. No, I wouldn't do that. Thank you, Tasby, once again. Which team is more likely to score this game week, Brighton or Leeds? I say Brighton. I think they're a bit more likely. That's why I've ordered my bench in that way, with Botman ahead of White. Bench one, probably Perisic. Foden to Mount? No. I'd probably keep Mount this week and then get Mount in for Gaming 19. Yeah, same. I'm scared about benching Martinelli, but Martial, Mount seem like good non-template picks this week. Yeah, I'll be honest. I think Martinelli is a better option than Mason Mount, but Mount is facing Nottingham Forest and Martinelli is facing the 7th best team in the league currently. So, yeah, it's a close one. Who would be your favourite differentials for the next few weeks? Robertson would be up there, I'd say. I'd probably, I'm going to go to the transfer section and give you more names. Try to go for it by position. So I will skip goalkeepers because that's not really too important and it won't get you too many points anyway. So defenders, differentials, I would say, yeah, Botman, Robertson, and Luke Shaw is still a relative differential, 7.1% ownership. What's Dallo? He's actually a bit higher at 7.6, but he's another one to consider if he's fit. The other one would be another Chelsea defender if you wish, like a Koulibaly, Thiago Silva, Cucurella. But my main three differential defenders would be Botman, Robertson, and Luke Shaw. In terms of midfielders, let's bring this up here as well. Differential midfielders, I would say Mason Mount. Oof, let's see this one. Rodrigo. Yeah, Rodrigo, I'd say, is up there. Good differential to consider. Kulusevski's not bad, but not too sure. Maybe Sterling in the double game, it could be very enticing, but I wouldn't really back him beyond that. I would say Benrahma is a good one. Good fixtures coming up, 1% ownership. He's on penalties, and he's been West Ham's best player recently. So if you were to go for any West Ham player, I think he's the one to go to. So yeah, that would be my top three midfielders. And finally, forwards, where maybe it'd be a bit tougher to find a differential. I'd say Martial and Nketiah. If I had to pick one, it would be Nketiah, as I said last week, but both are really good as well for that price point. So yeah, that would be my kind of differentials in each position. Anyone else really to consider? Not really. Not for me. So yeah, that is my list of differentials for you for each position. So who would you start, White or Shaw? I would go for Shaw this week. I didn't get Trossard as he plays better against big teams than weaker teams. Now he's playing Arsenal, I'd start him. Yeah, and also just a jinx, potentially. As I did a lot in the World Cup, I'd always bring in players, that I didn't want to do well, basically, like Richarlison. But yeah, I think if Brian do score, I think he will be involved. I don't think Dalot is fit. Ten Hag didn't get asked about him in the press conference. I appreciate that, Connor. I will double check that just to make sure. Using Premier Injuries, of course, which compiles all the information. So let me actually check that quickly. See if we can get anything. All right, so the latest on Dalot, just a hamstring strain. Yeah, no details have been provided. It's all down to a late fitness test. Yeah, I wouldn't expect him to be starting this week. Probably by game week 20, I think that's when he'll get back into the starting 11, when we've got that kind of 2-week break in between 19 and 20 after New Year's. So yeah, that is correct, Connor. Navneet says, should I keep Arsenal defender or take a -4 for Mitrovic? Keep Arsenal defender. Thank you, Peter. Salah, Haaland captain. I would love to say Salah, but I'm just going to say, who do I think is going to score more points? I think Haaland, so that's what I'm going with. Botman or Martinelli to start? I would go for Martinelli if I had to pick one. It's a close one, but yeah, probably Martinelli. Yes, I'm rolling the transfer this week. Start Dalot? I don't think he starts, so you could get someone else coming in for him or make a transfer there. Do you think Darwin to Mitrovic and Saka to Salah is a good move? Yes, it is a good move, but I'd probably just keep Darwin and Saka. I mean, because you're talking about a -4 hit here, and Mitrovic could be suspended, and Darwin against Leicester, I would not rule him out for a big return. So I'd probably keep. Do the transfers next week, if anything. Start Andreas in place of Wilson or transfer Wilson to Mitrovic. I would start Andreas over Wilson and then get Mitrovic in, add it. Should I get Wan-Bissaka? No, because I don't see him being nailed in the long term. He might play the next two. Is he going to play in Game Week 20 and beyond? I don't think so. Mitrovic or Havertz in? Mitrovic for me. Darwin or Haaland captain? I would go for Haaland. Foden to Mount? No faith in Foden starting? Then I would go for Mount. Yeah, exactly. I need someone to replace James, but I already have White, says Paulie. I would go for Luke Shaw or Botman. If you've already got Trippier and you don't want to double up on Newcastle defensively, or you've got De Gea or something like that, then I would go for Robertson. So that's kind of a good list of players there. You might also want Cucurella for the double, but I would go for one of the others instead. Well, Jimmy Vardy is like 36 years old now, 35. His best years are past him, and Leicester are a very poor team. And if you don't have service, as good as Jamie Vardy is, he relies on service, he's going to struggle. But it's kind of weird to see because literally the season before, he was very good, a very good record for the games he played. I would start Mason Mount, but only because of the fixture, really. So Wilson for Mitrovic or Trossard for Mount? Wilson to Mitrovic, despite the risk. You think I captain Rashford instead of Haaland next week? Next week, I would consider Mitrovic for the captaincy, Harry Kane, and maybe a Salah. I don't think I would go for Rashford as a captaincy option, but it's not bad. Alvarez returned to Manchester early and trained today. Yeah, there you go, Superstar. Thank you for the correction. I've actually seen a lot of Argentinian players back in training. That includes Lautaro Martinez at Inter, Otamendi and Enzo Fernandez at Benfica, and obviously Fernandez is linked to Chelsea. So, yeah, that's obviously the Argentina players are coming back. I think Messi's the one that's still not yet returned. He probably will be back on the 2nd or 3rd of January. Start White or Cucurella? Cucurella. Start Andreas or Greenwood from Leeds or Ben White? I would go for Ben White or Andreas. If I had to pick one, it probably would still be White. And that might be a mistake, by the way. Andreas definitely has the best fixture. What do you think on Mount Captain? Yeah, look, 40 points and you've got like, what, 19 game weeks left. You've got plenty of time, mate, especially with double game weeks as well involved. I would not captain Mount. Personally, look, if you have a good feeling about Mount, go for it. I don't want to discourage you, but I just don't think Mount's a great FPL option. I don't see him as a consistent one. I know he's a flat track bully, so Nottingham Forest could be right up there in terms of one of his big hauls, which you need, but I wouldn't captain him. I don't have enough confidence in him to do that. Shaw in for James and start Shaw for White or roll? I'd probably roll. Start White, roll, but getting Shaw in is not bad. Cucurella or Andreas? I'd go for Cucurella. Replacement for James, we've covered this many times throughout the week and also today. So just to kind of summarize, Ben White, Botman, Shaw and Robertson would be my top 4 picks. If I had to add a 5th one, it'd be Cucurella for the double game week. Start Trossard or Andreas, I'd go for Trossard. Fernandez best replacement. You've got Salah, Rashford, Almiron, Martinelli. In that case, I would go for... That's a close one. You could just go to Andres Pereira and have that money to invest elsewhere. Maybe upgrade one of your forwards to Mitrovic or something like that. If you still want a 5th midfielder, so to speak, then I would maybe go for Mason Mount. Start Solanke or Gabriel? I would start Gabriel. Who should I start, Trossard or Botman? I'm going for Trossard, so yeah, I think that's my answer, but I'm very conflicted about that, actually. I'm very conflicted. I don't think so, but I'm 50-50 on it almost. Is Haaland the best triple captaincy, Game Week 19 or 23? Well, he's got a double Game Week in 20, so you could argue that, but the double isn't particularly great. I'll be honest, I think Haaland will have a better double Game Week later in the season, and that might be the time. Or when he's got a really good fixture at home. I'm just trying to think what fixture, because he's already played Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth at home. But yeah, I think you'll have a good double Game Week later. Wow, so Ronaldo's signed already for Al Nassr on a 2-year contract, yeah? There's a lot of news, it seems, that's breaking out right now. Obviously, the transfer window's about to open. Who would you start, White or Trossard? I'm going for Trossard, so that's my answer. I wouldn't go for Doherty because even if he might get you a haul or two in the next 2, I don't see him being nailed on. I think Emerson could come back in ahead of Spurs' double. And yeah, I don't see Doherty as a nailed-on player. Spurs are poor defensively. There's too many reasons why to go for someone else. So no, not for me. Maybe start Andreas over White, maybe. And look, Cancelo might not start, so if you don't think he starts and you're convinced about it, then Cancelo will probably get a 1 point for you, so you just start Andreas over him. But for me, because I'm a bit conflicted about Cancelo, I would probably say go for him and White. If you had to start Andreas and you really wanted to, I'd start him over Ben White and start Cancelo as well. Start Solanke or Gabriel? I would go for Gabriel. I think we've answered this already. Sure, downgrade would give funds for a 3-5-3 formation, extra bench option. Yeah, thoughts? Yeah, I think that's fine, but you want to be careful with not having 2 poor defenders. And what I mean by that is like a Nico Williams and a Patterson or a Bueno. Having 2 of those 3, I think, really limits you and makes you very inflexible. So I'm guessing that's not an issue for you, and if that's the case, that's fine. But at the same time, Luke Shaw might have a double in 20, and he's got a good fixture over the next 2 from a defensive point of view. And because of that, I'd probably keep Shaw. But in the long term, what you just said might benefit you, Singh. Start Botman or White? I'd go for Botman this week. Do you think Walker will start? No, I don't think he will. What do you think? Who should be my captain? I mean, I'm going for Haaland, so that's my personal opinion. I think he'll score the most points. If you really want someone different, I'd go for Salah. Start Martial, White or Andreas? I would go for Martial. Walker or Castagna to start? That's a tough one. Probably Walker, but I don't expect him to start. He might get a 1-pointer for you. But with Castagna against Liverpool, I don't see a clean sheet. Martinelli away versus Brighton or Martial. I'd go for Martial this week. Sub Robertson for Trossard. Well, if you have Robertson on your bench, yeah, I'd start him. Probably over Trossard, yeah. Or try find someone else to bench. Who to start? I'd go for Trossard. Good luck, superstar as well. James to Cucurella or Akanji? Cucurella. Start Martinelli or Trossard? I would go for Martinelli. Any transfers this week? Nope. Will Ben Davies start? I don't think so. Romero should also be back fairly soon. And you've also got... no, that's the thing. Well, Ben Davies, Eric Dyer, and either Tanganga or Sanchez. And I think Ben Davies starts, but I'm not too sure. Robertson in for Cancelo. I would roll the transfer, see if Cancelo starts, and if he doesn't, then I'd get Robertson in. But it's not a bad transfer. I do like Robertson. He's someone I've mentioned a lot this week. Should I sell Walker? Still have James? I'd rather sell James because James is out for up to a month, and he's also more expensive, so it doesn't make any sense to sell Walker instead. I'd sell James. Start Andreas in place of Wilson. You've asked this question already, mate. Like I said, I'd start Andreas and roll the transfer. Is it worth to captain Mitrovic over Haaland in Game Week 19? I think so. The only concern is the suspension, and that could always backfire. But if he doesn't get a suspension, I think he has a great chance of being one of the best and highest scoring players in 19. Martinelli, White, Mount, bench 1. I'd bench Ben White. It won't be to Foden for a -4. No, because Foden might not even start, so I wouldn't do that for a -4. Start White or transfer James to someone? I'd start White. Thoughts on differential captains? Well, to be honest, anyone is a differential captain at this point. So I'd say Harry Kane and Salah are the top two, with De Bruyne third, if you're excluding Haaland, who's always the best option, it seems. So yeah, for me, Harry Kane's the best option. Thoughts on Nunez captain or Salah? Leicester a weaker, no Vardy, Yuri, Madders. Yeah, I think Liverpool will win by 2 or 3, and I think Salah will be involved. But at the same time, would I captain Nunez? No. Would I captain Salah? Yes, because I've got more faith in him. I've got a lot of confidence in what he's done in the past. Even this season, he's getting back to his best slowly but surely. So, yeah, I would consider it. If you want to go different, I'd captain Salah. Darwin Nunez, he might do really well. He's got the chance of getting 12 points or more, but my concern with him is he's got erratic finishing. He's very inconsistent. So, I would captain Salah. Start Solanke or Mount? I'd go for Mount. Thank you very much, Hal. I appreciate it. Any team news? Yes. The only thing we've got is that Liverpool have an unchanged 11, and also Leicester won't have Tielemans, and the reason's unknown. That's all we've got right now. Who's the best captain for Game Week 19? I mean, we'll talk more about this after because our focus right now is Game Week 18, but I would say Mitrovic is right up there in the conversation if he remains suspension-free. Erling Haaland's always up there, even if he's facing Chelsea, and the other ones would be maybe Mason Mount, Havertz, Kane and Salah. That would be my kind of top 5 or 6. I can rank them and start to think about it more in the days to come rather than right now. Should I play Castagna or sell Reece for Koulibaly? I would sell Reece for Koulibaly. No news about Cancelo, unfortunately. That would be ideal. Sell Trossard for Mount. I mean, it's a good transfer for the next 2 in particular. Yeah, I think it's worth it. Replace James for White, Aspie or someone else. Long term for me, White or a Botman or a Shaw. But if you want to tackle the double game week, I'd go for Cucurella. That's the way I'd go about it. And also Robertson is a fantastic option. So it just depends on your situation. My preference would be White. I've been struggling with captaincy. I don't want to go Haaland. I know it's a risk I'm willing to take. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, though. Like, if you want to go different, then I would captain someone like Salah, Kane, or De Bruyne, depending on which premiums you have already. The way I'd rank it is Kane first, maybe Salah second, and De Bruyne third. But I have a sneaky feeling De Bruyne could be, you know, he could even outscore Haaland this week. That's how confident I am in De Bruyne. So it's a close one. It is a close one. But yeah, if you want to go different with the captaincy, I'd go for a tried and tested premium player, and I'd go for one of those 3. And as for Martinelli or Tony, I'd start Tony, I'd say. Yeah. Nunez captain has a big differential, good underlying numbers, could go crazy though. Yeah, look, like I said, Nunez can go crazy, but I don't have enough confidence in him to recommend him as a captaincy option. It's as simple as that. Wilson or Andreas, I'd go for Andreas because, well, then again, when I just went through the comment with Eddie Howe, it seemed very optimistic. So, look, if Wilson's fully fit, he might just get straight back into the 11, but I don't really see a need for him to be rushed back. I think he'll be benched personally, and because of that, I would say Andreas, but I could be wrong. And if Wilson starts, I think he's better than Andreas. It's as simple as that. I have Bruno, not sure about making a transfer to get him out for Saka. Any thoughts? I think Saka's a better option than Bruno, but what might play in your favour is that Bruno could have a double in Game Week 20 against Leeds as well. So that could be the play of keeping Bruno. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, the Liverpool team news is reliable. It's by Team News and Ticks, aka League Lineups, and Sam C345 relayed that information as well. Would you start Martinelli or Martial? Martial. It's really close, though. I wouldn't want to bench either, to be honest. Unchanged for Liverpool, so Ox is starting up front. No changes at all in the 11. Exactly that. Benrahma or Cucurella? I'd say Benrahma, but it's a close one. Cucurella's a safer pick for sure. Bench Kulusevski, Martinelli, Almiron, Salah or Foden? Probably Foden because I don't think he'll start. If he does, then you'll probably be kicking yourself, but that's my answer. I need to drop one of Akanji, Nketiah, Sterling, Martial. I would probably bench Nketiah. Very helpful. Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate it. Havertz or Mount. Also went for Nketiah over Tony. I prefer Mason Mount because he's a midfielder. Havertz is a forward. I think that's a big plus for Mount. Not just because of extra points and stuff and the clean sheet and extra point for scoring a goal, but also because I would rather have a Mason Mount and cover one of your 4 or 5 midfielders with him than cover one of 3 precious forward slots with Havertz. Who to start, Martinelli or Havertz? I'd start Havertz this week. Yeah, I think Mitrovic will start. I don't see a reason why I wouldn't. Hayden, I have extra cash in the bank and I'm thinking of bringing in Salah or for KDB this match day. What do you think? I wouldn't do that. I would keep KDB. Whether it's for free or for a hit, I just wouldn't do it. Definitely not for a hit. Will Haaland be subbed off early? Possibly, with the such short turnaround between Game Week 17, 18 and 19, then yeah, it could happen. I don't expect him to get less than 60 minutes. I think he'll get 70, 80. I have Bruno, not sure about making a transfer to get him out for Saka. Yeah, we went through that. Walker or White? White, because I think he'll start. Do you think Pope will outscore Kepa this game week? Yes. James to Trent or Robertson? I'd go for Robertson. I would not go for Oxlade-Chamberlain, to be honest, as an FPL option, not even for 1 week. I'm playing Andreas over Wilson and hope that Wilson has a cameo role. I mean, that's the thing, though. You have to also play it by the way you predict, because, yes, if both start, most of us would predict Wilson to be the better option, but it does seem like Wood will start again and Wilson will be on the bench, and I think that's what happened against Chelsea in Game Week 16. Let's wait and see. Thoughts on Mitrovic? I mean, I like him as an option. I've liked him all season. He's very consistent. He's a great goal scorer. Even has a few assists, in his belt. But with that yellow card suspension looming over him, I don't think it's worth taking a hit for him. I don't think we should undo our teams or, get rid of some really good striker options like Martial, Nketiah, Nunez as well in particular just yet. Maybe be a bit patient, but do I like him more than most strikers for the next 3 or 4 game weeks? Yeah, I do. And he's also one that you can bring in and then get rid of for Tony if he's not suspended with the betting rules breach and all of that. I'd start Luke Shaw, -4 Mount to Iwobi to Mount. I'm not a big fan of the hit, but it will pay off because of the double game week, in my opinion. And Iwobi isn't the greatest, asset in the world anyway. So yeah, I'd do it. But at the same time, maybe just roll the transfer, bring in a defender for Iwobi, and then do it for free next week. So just depends on your situation. Play White or Andreas? I would play White, but it's a close call. Kulusevski to Rashford, or keep Kulusevski for this game week. I'd keep Kulusevski for this game week and then do the transfer maybe next week. Shaw or White? I'd go for Shaw. Dunk versus White? I'd go for White. What else do we have? Should I transfer Wilson to Mitrovic, Tony? I would. And I'd go for Mitrovic personally. Sanchez or Ward to start? I'd go for Sanchez. Martinelli or Andreas, I would go for Martinelli. Shaw versus White is a 50-50 choice. Wow, that's going to backfire irrespective of the option I go for. I have more confidence in Shaw, to be honest. I think Wolves and Brighton can score, of course, and maybe we're going to talk about 1 versus 2 pointers in the end, but I think Shaw has a better chance of a clean sheet this week. Yeah, Bobby de Cordova-Reid for Foden, targeting triple up Fulham, Game Week 19. Now, I wouldn't go that far, but that's a really good option that you mentioned. That Cordova-Reid is playing in a more advanced position now, not playing as a wing-back as he was kind of limited to before with all the injuries Fulham had. So yeah, I think de Cordova-Reid could be a decent option. He is still behind Andreas and Mitrovic for me, but if you really want to triple up on Fulham, that's the way I would go. But would I do it? No. Thank you, Armara. Season's greetings to you as well. Who should I start and bench? Darwin or Andreas, Shaw or Gabriel? I would start Darwin and I'd start Shaw. Let's see. Final question. Do you think Martial can outscore KDB this week? Can. Do I think he will? No. Because if it's not KDB, I'm captaining him then. I'd captain KDB personally, but it's completely up to you. Who do I bring in to replace Wilson? I have Haaland and Martial. I'd bring in Mitrovic. Shaw or Akanji, no City defence. I'd go for Shaw though. He's just nailed with Akanji. Yeah, he might be one of the more nailed on City players, but with Pep Roulette, you just never know. And Shaw could have a double in 20. Start Fernandes or Solanke. I'd go for Bruno Fernandes. Would you sell Wilson for Mitrovic considering the fitness issues? Yes, I would, but it could backfire. I'll be very blunt with you there. My midfield is Saka, Martinelli, Foden, Almiron. Who'd you get in instead of Foden for 8.4 million? Rashford. Rashford for sure. Vice captain KDB, Rashford, Almiron, KDB. Adil puts his team: Kepa, Walker, Trippier, White, Salah, Almiron, Rashford, Mount, Haaland, Martial, Nunez, bench, Martinelli, Patterson, James. Looks good. I'm a bit concerned about benching Martinelli, but it does look fine. I think your main concern is defence, Adil, because you've got Walker who might not start. Ben White's facing Brighton. You've got Patterson, and you've got James. I think that defence is looking very poor. So if you had to make a transfer, it would be in defence, of course, and I would do James to either Robertson or Luke Shaw, potentially, and then play them. So yeah, that would be my concern. Your defence is not looking great. James to Robertson this game week, then Martial to Mitrovic next game week, or Andreas to Mount and Darwin to Mitrovic next game week. I will do James to Robertson and Martial to Mitrovic next game week, Genius Gamer. Should I sell Ramsdale this game week or hold it? I'm not a big fan of goalkeeper transfers. I would hold it, to be honest. You might have other issues popping about next week, or you might want to get double game week players or someone else on your radar that will get more points than Ramsdale or whoever you get in goal. Do I bench Martinelli, Rashford, or Almiron? I would bench Martinelli if I had to pick one, but it could backfire. Best 6.3 million midfielder, Almiron. That's for sure. How do you feel about double Arsenal defence against Brighton away? I would be very concerned about that. I think one's decent, could pay off, but two, look, you never know. Arsenal have been very solid, but yeah, it's not like I expect Arsenal to concede 2 or 3, which could happen, but I think Brighton will score one. That's just the way I see it. Cucurella or Shaw? I'd go for Shaw. Do I bench Martinelli, Rashford, or Almiron? We answered this already. Is it okay if I have no double game week players? I think it's okay because you're talking about Chelsea and Fulham assets, and they're not that great, to be honest. Mitrovic is the best one, but he's still got some problems of his own. Got an amazing green arrow, time to be back in the trenches. Well, you never know, mate. I mean, your team did well for a reason, and there's some good fixtures for a lot of these players again, so I wouldn't be too negative. Bench one of Cucurella, Mitrovic, White, Almiron. Ben White. Do I bench Martinelli, Rashford, Almiron? Yeah, we answered that already. How do you feel about double Arsenal defence? Yeah. Let's see, what new questions do we have? Cucurella, Castagna for the upcoming game weeks. Cucurella. Start Rashford, Darwin, or Benrahma? Rashford. Then again, though, would I bench Nunez? No. Is Walker okay? Yeah, he's okay, but it's also telling that Cancelo came on instead of Walker the other day. As the right back, by the way, Cancelo tends to play as the left back this season and also in the last campaign. So I think he's okay, but do I think he'll start? No. Short in for James or hold and have 2 free next week. I'd roll if you can, and if you've got decent cover like White or something, then just do that. Hey Dylan, I would like your opinion. If Cancelo starts this game week, would you get rid of him? It's a close one. I think Rico Lewis has been that impressive that Cancelo is a doubt for future weeks. But I still think Cancelo forms part of City's best 11 on the left-hand side. I just think that Pep wanted to keep playing Ake because of, obviously, the goal against Liverpool, his performances in the World Cup. He's been very good recently. And Pep is really big on rhythm and continuity. So a lot could happen, but I think once Cancelo reclaims a spot and shows some good form, I don't think he will lose a spot again, even with such a tight schedule. He might get the odd benching, of course, but I think Game Week 18 will be very telling. Andreas over White to start. I don't mind that. I'll be honest, I don't mind that at all. I would go for White, but it looks decent. Thoughts on Willian? I mean, from Fulham, I preferred the cut over Reed, and more importantly, Andres Pereira, and the best of the lot, Mitrovic. But he has been decent, I have to say. He has been decent when he started. Double Arsenal attack, I don't mind it. Saka, Martinelli are great, even Odegaard's in the mix, Nketiah's good up front. There's so many options for Arsenal all of a sudden, but yeah, I don't mind it. My problem is the next 4 game weeks are pretty tough, and I don't see too many goals in most of the games. Rodrigo for Trossard, gamble. I do like Rodrigo for the next few weeks, so yeah, it could be worth a gamble, but Trossard against Arsenal, don't write him off. Being too aggressive with James to short and bench White, hope Trossard bags a brace and Martinelli hat-trick. I mean, that even though I have Trossard, I don't want that to happen. I'd rather Arsenal keep a clean sheet and I've got points on the bench and Trossard blanks, but yeah, I mean, that's funny how FPL works. It kind of makes us expect so much, and it almost always never delivers. Odegaard or Kulusevski? For this week, Kulusevski, long-term Odegaard. Start Andreas over White. Like, oh yeah, we answered this already. Thank you, Out Malice. Yeah, the World Cup was amazing. You know, before the tournament, my kind of favourites were Argentina and Brazil, and I kind of always back Argentina. 2014 as well. I said Argentina, Germany. But yeah, Argentina were in great form last 3 years, and it's great that they could finally, you know, get over the line in the finals against Brazil, against Italy, and now against France. It shouldn't have gone to penalties, but it does make it more memorable. So it wasn't good for my heart, but it was good for the spectacle and for the neutrals. Yeah, Martial will start. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't, to be honest. Start Shaw, why? We got that question so many times today. I'd go for Shaw personally. I'm logged with Salah captain. I like that. Should I wildcard? I'm in big trouble. I'd try not to. Honestly, I'd say playing a wildcard now might put you in even bigger trouble, because a lot of people will have the wildcard in their back pocket, you know, for double game weeks and blanks and stuff like that, and they could be very well prepared for them, and you won't. So try to hold out a little bit. One bad week doesn't mean you're in trouble. Trust me. Havertz in, Darwin out? No, I'd keep Darwin this week and maybe do that transfer in Game Week 19. Yeah, 4 minutes to go. Yeah, time has literally flown by, I'll be honest. I did not expect that. I'll be honest, I don't like Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea. I would actually rather him go to United, Liverpool, Madrid, etc. But it is what it is. My preference would be for him to stay in Benfica and then move in 1 or 2 years, but that's how football is. Yes, Christian, it is. Foden or Mount, and why don't you have any of them? Well, probably Mount because he has a double, and he's more nailed on. With Foden, I think he's much better than Mount, but he doesn't get the starts consistently, and it's been the case since Game Week 11 or 10 or something like that. So why don't I have it either? Because Foden's an injured out. He's a rotation risk, and Mount is just not a great FPL option. So that's why I don't have them. Any team news? Yeah, we went through them. So basically, all we have is that Liverpool have an unchanged 11 from Game Week 17, and Leicester have one change, which is no Tielemans, and we don't know the reason. So it could be to do with transfers. Why do I have Salah over KDB? We discussed this before. I think Salah's a slightly better option. He's on penalties, he's more nailed on. City have extra games in January, which Liverpool don't. And also, for me, Salah is a better FPL option. It's not, you know, it's very close. And also, another reason on top of the 3 I just gave is because I would rather captain Salah over Haaland compared to KDB over Haaland, if that makes sense. And you will have some games where Salah has a better fixture than KDB, and Haaland as a result. But when it's KDB versus Haaland, it becomes trickier to go away from Haaland for the captaincy at any point in the season. So that's why I've gone for Salah. Thank you, United Gaiowo. I'm not sure if Cancelo starts, to be honest. My prediction is no, but I could be wrong. I hope so. I hope Salah does well as the captain. Let's wait and see. I think he's got a great chance against a poor Leicester side once again. I don't think so. I think if Cancelo can regain his spot, he will be the nailed-on one. Apart from him, maybe a Kanji, but I just can't tell you for sure. Yeah, KDB captain this week. I do like it. I have a sneaky feeling KDB could be the best this week, but let's wait and see. Shaw Cucurella, I'd go for Shaw. Start Andres or Mitrovic, I'd go for Mitrovic. Welcome, Cyril. Happy New Year to you as well. And I hope you have a great weekend too. And greetings from the west of Ireland. Greetings, mate. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you, El Padrino. Somerville, perfect bench option. Yeah, he's decent. Same with Greenwood as well. He looked very impressive against City, and Andres Pereira is probably the ideal one with a double game week as well. Shaw, Andres or Gabriel? I prefer Shaw. I would go for Shaw over Foden. Greenwood or Mitrovic? I would go for Mitrovic. Matip? No, I wouldn't consider him. I'd rather just go for Robertson. Yeah, but that's the thing, though. If he doesn't start again, we're saying we'll just sell him. It's as simple as that. And he might play a part in my transfer plans. I could do Cancelo to Robertson, get Andres for Trossard, and get Mitrovic for Greenwood. I might do something like that. Yeah, good luck, Aaron. Hopefully it pays off. Bench 1 among Almiron, KDB, Rashford, Odegaard, Kulusevski. I'd bench Odegaard, I think. Just the type of fixture, the difficulty of the game as well. Yep, the deadline has now passed. We are locked in. Just did Reece to Cucurella to avoid double Arsenal defence. That's fair enough. I think that's a smart move. Bridgerton, World Cup final, not good for the heart, but good for the neutrals, yeah. And I thought Argentina had blown it, honestly. 2-0 up against France. Could have been more even, dominated the first 80 minutes, and then for a dumb penalty like that to be conceded, yeah, you can't throw an opportunity like that away. But yeah, thankfully it all went right. I like Ake more, to be fair. That's fair enough. I mean, Ake has been fairly nailed recently, but the thing is, you've got two left-footed centre-backs there in Laporte and Ake, and as the left centre-back, I would expect Laporte to be a bit more nailed on anyway, and I would expect Cancelo to become the left-back once again. So with Ake, I think he will drop out eventually, but if he continues to play that well, it's going to be hard for Pep Guardiola to justify that. Oh, well, just a Cucurella, hope it works. Yeah. Good luck. Start Andres or White. I would have gone for White personally, but I think Andres does have this higher ceiling. I do admit that. Yeah, it is done. Botman or Rodrigo. I prefer Botman this week. Yeah, we are locked. That is the deadline. Good luck, everyone. Thank you, Christian. Hi, Dylan. What team do you support, and does your heart ever rule ahead? I support Arsenal and I support Argentina. So two teams that love to suffer, basically. Yeah, of course, heart does rule the head. Sometimes I say, for example, when a referee gives a decision, I say, oh, wow, that's the wrong decision, and it might not be. But, bias does come in, of course, and the heart can rule the head. Yeah, of course. But in these streams, typically, especially with Arsenal, I try to be, balanced and neutral. Last season, for example, and the years before, I never really recommended Arsenal players too much unless I genuinely felt they could offer something. Martial, Nketiah, or Mitrovic? Mitrovic, then Nketiah, then Martial for me. Good luck, Sudindra, and Happy New Year to you as well in advance. I almost took a punt on Darwin captain. Yeah, I mean, I can understand why people have done it, but I just don't have enough confidence in someone like Nunez to bring myself to do something like that. Good luck as well, Durgish. Let's go differentials, yeah? By the way, in all that commotion, I forgot to bring on Botman, but to be honest, I'm quite happy with my lineup. I don't want to, do something I regret, and I've already got Trippier anyway, but double Newcastle defence could be good this week. Any nailed Man City defender? Yeah, we answered this already. Like I said, I don't think there is one in particular. The most nailed at the moment does seem like a Kanji or Ake, but I wouldn't be that... yeah, Singh, I agree as well. I wouldn't be too convinced about that, though. Good luck to you as well, Roy. Good luck, Manish and Wei Singh as well. Let's see how Gameweek 18 does. Yep, come on, you Gunners. Let's see how we do. I think Arsenal can win. Will they? It's difficult. City are still the favourites, by the way. Whether it's the betting odds, whether it's Opta stats, whether it's the general public. City are still the favourites despite being 5 points behind, and it says a lot. I think Arsenal could drop points against Brighton or Newcastle. So that's why I'm kind of managing my expectations. If Arsenal can go through the next 4 games and still have a 5-point gap, I'd be even more confident. Liverpool top 4. It's close. I think... Yeah, Newcastle and Liverpool are currently favourites to get top 4, and I do agree with that. But I think United and Spurs still have a good chance. I don't think Chelsea do, personally, but I think it's really close between Newcastle, Liverpool, Chelsea, and... not Chelsea, sorry, Spurs and United. The thing is, I think injuries will play a big part. The signings in January as well. There's so much that could change. But yeah, I think Liverpool will finish top 4. I would have started... yeah, I mean, it's close. It's close. I went for White over Andres, so naturally I would have said Gabriel, but Andres might have been the better pick. I think it's really close. Andres has the highest ceiling for sure, and maybe I was wrong about that. Enjoy the weekend as well, Lager. Thank you very much, and I wish you a Happy New Year too. No idea why, but it says KDB is on for a price drop. Probably because a lot of people saw the Salah haul and have just done KDB to Salah mindlessly, or they've done KDB downgraded to a midfielder like Saka or Mason Mount and then upgraded a forward to Mitrovic or gone for a Kane as well. So that's probably why he might be predicted for a 4. So many finals we blew even after playing well. Those memories flash by. Yeah, the thing is though, like the nature of the performance, the first half, it was like a dream come true. Going into halftime 2-0 up, playing amazing football. I still was, kind of wary in the back of my mind that France could mount a comeback, especially if we, did what we did against Netherlands. It happened. Argentina blew it almost. But when it went to penalties, I was quietly confident. With Emi Martinez, and Lloris isn't a great penalty saver. And we already showed, scoring pretty much every penalty apart from the Enzo Fernandez one against Netherlands. I thought we could do something similar against France. And also I think the experience also played a part, and we got some good penalty takers. Lautaro Martinez, although I thought he might have missed if he took one on the final. Dybala, Montiel is known for penalties. Paredes, Messi himself, of course. Thoughts on the conspiracy of Argentina players favoured in the World Cup? There were a couple of instances where Martinez and Messi got away with a yellow. Martinez, I'm not so sure about getting away with a yellow there because he did get booked during the penalty shootout. As for Messi, we all know this. He kind of gets away with it in general, not just the World Cup. I'll be honest, I don't really care. I do like it when people kind of chat nonsense about Argentina saying they were favoured in general with decisions and stuff. Because whenever decisions have gone against Argentina in the past, like against Brazil in the Copa America semi-final, or even against Paraguay in some random qualifiers, people don't really care. They just say, haha, you lost or you drew or whatever. But yeah, with Messi, it's not really, it's nothing new. He kind of gets away with some stuff, but I saw some people basically saying the World Cup is rigged because Messi didn't get a yellow card against Netherlands, and if he did, he would have been sent off. Well, no, because if he got that first yellow, he wouldn't have got the second one because he would have been more careful. I mean, yeah, people do get very volatile, in my opinion. Long-term 4.5 million defender, Botman. Simple as. Game week 18, I went different. Bailey and White, plus stuck with Nunez. Good luck, but not trusted owners. I'll be honest, I don't, more power to you. I also don't wish luck for Trossard, even though I have him. If it means Arsenal do well, then so be it. Dylan, I was cursing Otamendi for 50 minutes straight after he failed to just clear the ball. Yeah, I mean, he should have just done that. That's the thing with Otamendi, though. He had a great World Cup. He's been fantastic over the last year or so. But he has those moments. Even last year, before the Copa America, against Colombia, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, there was one game where he gave away a penalty. He has those moments, and he hadn't done it for like over a year, and it was like it was due. He had one of those moments in him in a big game. Didn't happen in the Champions League, so it happened in the final. But that's where nerves come in, and I think not just that. I think Argentina were poorly structured in that moment. For Otamendi to be isolated one-on-one against, I think it was Colomwani or Thuram, I think it was. You can't do that, and I think Scaloni did make a mistake, and I like Scaloni a lot. I think he's one of the best managers in the world and in Argentina's history, but taking off Di Maria for Acuna was a mistake, and France went to basically a 4-2-4, and each one of those 4 forwards was basically one-on-one against the defenders. So I think it would have been best if we put in another defender like Lisandro Martinez, set up shop, have a defensive 5 basically, maybe add another midfielder as well like Paredes, who could also kind of outnumber the forwards. We didn't do that, and we almost got punished for it, but the reason why I didn't like Acuna is because he killed a lot of the attacks on the left-hand side, and he hasn't played as a left mid for a long time. He plays as a left-back now, so yeah, and also just the fact that Di Maria played so well, he was causing all sorts of problems. When he was on the pitch, he was the best player by far for me, even over Messi. He was absolutely fantastic. Di Maria is the man for the big occasion, and he's one of my favourite players of all time. I actually met him one time in 2007, but it was before he was known, to be fair. Argentina really deserved it. France never took the lead, and they were gifted 2 penalties. Yeah, obviously, you have to say they were probably all penalties. The Otamendi one was the least deniable. Like, that was a clear penalty. The Montiel one, it is a penalty by the rules, so it's a penalty. You can't argue with it. But if it were me making the rules, I would say it's not a penalty. It's kind of unlucky for him to be turning. His hand is away from his body, but it's kind of a natural movement of his arm. But then you look at our penalty, some would argue it's not a penalty, and I do understand why they say that. For me, Dembele does trip Di Maria, or cause him to trip himself, but it is a very soft penalty. Lautaro, the new Higuain of 2014. The thing is, though, look, Higuain was a great striker. Yes, he bottled it in the big moments. There's no denying that. And Lautaro, yeah, a lot of people now just look at him basically what a lot of people do, they look at one World Cup and that's the first time they really see a player for their country. But Lautaro before this World Cup, he was great. You know, he scored in the Finalissima final against Italy. He was crucial in the Copa America when he scored like 3 goals, including the quarterfinals and the semis. Scored his penalty in that. Also got Argentina to the semi-finals of this World Cup as well. Yeah, he had a poor World Cup. We all know this, but he also was a bit unlucky and his confidence is completely shattered. I still think he's a really good striker. Emmy complained about Van Gaal in the post-match interview. Well, yeah, but to be honest though, Van Gaal was chatting a lot of nonsense before in the build-up. The same goes for even Nopper and other players. You know, there was a lot of chatting. Even pundits from Netherlands were saying they're going to win 3-0. So, yeah, I'll be honest, like, if I were there, would I retaliate? No, I just wouldn't bother. I don't care what the haters say. But I think, you know, if you dish it out, then be willing to take it, in my opinion. And, you know, Van Gaal was chatting a lot of nonsense about Messi himself, about Argentina in general, saying they're scared with their lineup. They got humbled. It's as simple as that. I'm sorry. Thank you, Tiger Guna. Yeah, common you Gunners. Oh, got a lot of World Cup. Maybe we just entered a rabbit hole. We shouldn't have done this. I am from Argentina, Stefan, yeah. World Cup is rigged as a stretch. That is just being salty. The thing is, look, it's because Argentina got 5 penalties. You could argue 2 weren't. For me, look, when you look at the rules, that's the thing. It's such a subjective thing. For me, the Poland one wasn't a penalty, the penalty we got against Poland. But in the rules, I can understand why it was given. But for me, it's never a penalty. It's too soft. But then afterwards, you know, like the Livakovic one, people are saying that's not a penalty. Then they say the Di Marion's not a penalty. And then the one against Netherlands. And then it comes to a stage where people, I think, take it a bit too far. You know, I saw someone say that Gakpo should have got a penalty against Argentina. It was less of a penalty than the one that Acuna got against the Netherlands himself. Yet they say it's not a penalty. So I think people do let their kind of trivialism and, you know, or tribalism, should I say, get in the way of their, you know, objective thinking. And they are a bit biased there. Yeah, let's wait and see. I think Brighton will be tough. I think it's a big plus that McAllister and Caicedo, it looks like they won't play. Let's wait and see. Yeah, I would have kept him on for 10 more minutes if he had it in him. It did look like he was getting tired, but 10 more minutes, Di Maria, causing more problems. Then bring him out for Lisandro Martinez. I think that was the play. That was one of the biggest mistakes, that Scaloni's made, I think, and it almost cost them. No, I'm not a fan of Boca or River Plate. I've been to a Rosario Central match, and yeah, they might not get the coverage that those two teams get because they're big clubs, but Central have an even better fan base for me. The ref had already stopped play before the handball situation against Netherlands. Some people are looking for any excuse. The thing is, by the way, that's another thing I've seen. That referee, Lajos, people are saying that he benefited Argentina. Like, really? And people really just say that because, oh, Messi didn't get a yellow card, Argentina got a penalty. Oh, the tournament's rigged. For me, it never should have gone to 10 minutes of added time, and that's how Netherlands got back into the game and equalised. It went to extra time, and the game actually ended up, finishing in the 102nd or 103rd minute. So, look, I think the referee was just poor for both teams, and he got so many decisions wrong, and I think Netherlands got away with quite a few fouls that people don't really say anyway, but it's all in the past. You know, it's already done. We can't change it anyway. Ears closed, eyes closed, haters will hate. Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I've seen a lot of hate as well. Everywhere. You know, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. But honestly, I don't care. You know, I literally don't care. All I care about is winning the World Cup. It's happened. I've enjoyed it. I'll probably enjoy it for the rest of the year as well. There was a handball by France player before the Montiel one. It might have been. In some angles, it looks like it hits off the player's head, and I think it was Upamecano. In some angles, it looks like it was a handball. It is so difficult to tell. If it did hit off his hand, France were very lucky there, for sure. So, yeah, like I said, I can't tell you definitively if it hit his hand, but it is a chance that it did. Dylan, do you live in England? Yes, I live in England, but I'm from Argentina, yeah. Dual nationality. Yeah, it was a penalty. Just said that the defenders gifted France those chances unnecessarily. Yeah, I know. I know that. I was just kind of on a tangent because obviously we got different comments there. No, I know we gifted them penalties. The Ottomani one especially. That was the one that brought France back in the game. And Mbappe, he went from a ghost to just being completely involved, and the second goal was quality. Di Maria would have never been sobbed if he was fully fit. Yeah, the thing is though, if you bring him off, that's fine. But I think Acuna was the wrong choice for me. How easy people forget Lautaro is incredible with Inter. This year he sent Barca to Europa. The thing is, I think this season he's been a bit inconsistent for Inter. I think in the Champions League he's got like 1 goal. In Serie A, I don't think he has that many, but he is a very good player overall. And, you know, every player has a patch where they just don't score. They have some poor finishes. I think the worst one for him was the Australia game. And it all happened, I think, from a culmination of losing a spot against Poland. When he came on, I think he missed a chance in that game. He had a goal wrongfully disallowed, actually, against Saudi Arabia. That would have been 2-0, probably game over. So there was a few things there. I think Martinez was the most offside player in the World Cup. Yeah, exactly. But there was one where he wasn't offside, actually, and I think it was proven that the technology, they used the wrong player to use the offside. So I think one of the goals should have counted. I think it was the chip that he scored. The one against Poland was very soft, but it was missed. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. For me, that wasn't a penalty. I can understand the rules. You know, there's contact made with his face and stuff, but it's not a penalty for me. And he missed anyway. Argentina won by scoring open play goals, and it should have been 4-5-0, in my opinion, that game. There was a few games where I think Argentina should have won by more. Saka was fouled before France's first goal scored. Yeah, and it's a soft foul, but if it was given, I don't think anyone would have complained. Even the French players, the fans, etc. I think that game was one of many where there was poor refereeing, but for me, the worst one by far was Argentina-Netherlands. The referee was absolutely awful. Well, that's the thing with Di Maria, though. He typically is subbed off anyway, even when he's fully fit, because he does tire quite easily. He puts so much energy in the pitch, and he also has his minutes managed for future games as well. Obviously, in this one, it's a World Cup final, that's it. I agree. If he was fully fit, he would have played 10, 20 minutes more, but I think he would have been subbed off eventually anyway. I think the problem was the player we brought on, rather than bringing him off anyway. Yeah, I don't understand. They never bring out Lisandro Martinez in the 2-0 lead. They're dominating the match. Look, I'm not saying if we brought on Lisandro Martinez, we wouldn't have conceded, because I think we did anyway against Netherlands, and we still conceded twice. So it's not like, bringing on Acuna, not Lisandro, is the reason why I went into penalties. But I think it was the substitution that the game required. Yeah, the host is probably one of the worst referees of all time. I've heard bad things from Barcelona fans over the years. I think he's affiliated with Real Madrid, basically. He does favour them a lot. Yeah, he's an awful referee, honestly. Not only did we beat Netherlands, but for me, we beat Laos, and it would have been the same for Netherlands if they had won. It's kind of like it gives you even more confidence going into the next game. There was a handball in the build-up of the second pen. There are always going to be moments. Yeah, like I said, though, it might have hit his head instead of his hand, but maybe it did. In my opinion, it did hit his hand, but it's not definitive for me. We can't say for sure, oh, it did, but maybe I'm wrong. At that situation, I don't see how France can attack with Argentina swapped to three at the back and play defensively. Yeah, and also, Argentina could have caught France out on the counter-attack, because France were overcommitting so much and they had so much gaps in the midfield, as they did all game. For me, Scaloni set up the team perfectly for the first 70 minutes, and Deschamps got it wrong. But I think what Deschamps did was he made better substitutions than Scaloni. In the end, Argentina won, and for me, the better team won, but you can't give a team like France any opportunities to get back in the game. Oh, how did I feel after the Emmy last save? Well, I kind of, when Kolo Muani went through, I thought that's it, that they've won. But once Martinez saved it, I was kind of in shock. Yeah, because it's like, your heart can't take any more. Then on the other side, you got Lautaro Martinez missing a good chance. He completely misdirected his header, got the angle wrong. But after that save, I actually thought, we're going to win this, kind of, because you make such a big save. We've been the better team for most of the 120 minutes. And then you go into penalties where you've got Martinez, who's one of the best, if not the best penalty save in the world. Suddenly you start to get a lot more confidence, I think. Thought the manager would bring in Lisandro. It's what he's been doing most of the tournament, but in that game, I think he wanted to keep the same shape, 4-4-2/4-3-3, and be on the offensive, but it almost cost us, because Acuna he had a poor game, and he's not a left mid anymore. He's more of a left back. Do you think Correa's a better striker than Martinez? No. Angel Correa is a decent striker, but Lautaro Martinez has a better goal record. He also is a very good striker in general. What do you think about the Argentinians' chance relating France players' origins? I don't think that's true. If you're on about the Argentinian players, that's definitely false. If it's Argentinian fans, yes, they have done. I think there's a few that done that. Also, on Pele, Dylan. Well, obviously, he's been in. I'm not sure exactly what his situation was like, but for the last month or so, he's had problems. Obviously, colon cancer is one of the worst things that can happen to you. And I think literally the other day, his daughter posted like, "I'm going to enjoy the last night with you," basically. So obviously, one of the greatest of all time. most things that you've seen on the football pitch, Pele did first. I obviously didn't grow up with him, so when I talk about the best of all time, I don't really think of Pele. He's probably my top 3 or something, but I've only seen highlights, videos and stuff. With Maradona, I've seen full matches at least, you know, from YouTube, obviously. And with Messi, I've seen him live. I've literally gone to the stadium, but he's one of the best of all time for sure. I think Livakovic was supposed to take the Golden Glove. Well, I think Livakovic, he was a deserving winner, same with Bono. But the thing is with Martinez, I understand why he got it. Winning team, made crucial saves against Australia and France. He was the hero in 2 penalty shootouts, not 1, but 2. So I understand why he got it. The thing with Martinez, though, is despite him still having a good World Cup, Argentina didn't concede that many shots in every game. You know, against France, they basically conceded 3 shots, conceded all 3. Against Saudi Arabia, 2 shots, 2 goals. Against Australia, 1 shot. I mean, it was kind of like the own goal as a freaky goal. But basically, Argentina were very unlucky in some ways, and they should have conceded fewer. Yeah, that first goal brought France life, and Argentina were shell-shocked. That's how they got the second goal straight after the penalty. Yeah, exactly. And then Molina got taken off, which was, I think, a good move, bringing on Montiel for the penalties and also for more defensive assuredness. But yeah, either way, Scaloni's gone down in history. He's one of the best managers, but I do think that Di Maria Cunha substitution almost cost Argentina. England versus France was poor refereeing. So many half decisions went against England. That was the game I felt France's defence is very shaky. Yeah, even before that, though, France against Poland, I think Poland did pretty well, actually. Considering the golf in quality, I think Poland could have done even more, actually, and 3-1 was maybe a bit nice to France. The Morocco game as well. Once again, Morocco dominated the game. France were basically just kind of soaking up the pressure and counter-attacking. Look, Deschamps is a good manager. He's done very well to do what he did with so many key injuries to him. But yeah, I think England were the better team in that game. They probably should have won. But France, what they have is that quality that in the crucial moments, they get the job done. Against Argentina, they were poor, but they still got it to 3-3. And that's because they have so much quality. And you just got to give them credit for that. I thought the ref just nearly got his whistle on cards from Amazon on that day. What a joke. Yeah, but there were so many poor referees. Even Mike Walliver, Brazil versus Croatia, poor performance. The England versus France game, I think Wilton Sampaio, I think is his name, the Brazilian ref, Mateo Lajos. Do you think Haaland will take a World Cup for the next years? I think he can make a World Cup. Do I think he's going to win one? No. But Norway have some good players. I mean, Odegaard's one of the best midfielders in the league right now. Haaland's the best striker in the league. So yeah, apparently Chelsea are going to pay 100 million plus for Murdic. Wow, I mean, that would be a ton of events. But if they were to get him and Enzo Fernandez, I mean, come on, something needs to be done with Chelsea because that'd be way too much money. When it went to penalties, I knew Argentina will win, as Martinez is 100% better penalty saver compared to Lloris. Yeah, exactly. Against Colombia in Copa America, against Netherlands, and then once again against France. Yeah, exactly. He has the tattoo. That's a good one. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of tattoos, but stuff like that, it does make sense. Do you think Dybala should have played more? I would have liked him to play more, but I don't really blame Scaloni for not playing him more anyway, because he plays a similar role to Messi, and they occupy similar positions and stuff. I'm happy that he came on against Croatia and also against France and then scored his penalty. I'm happy with that. Chelsea are out of their mind now. They should sign Mbappe if they're going to flex their cash. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen because you're talking about 300 million or something for Mbappe. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, FFP, where are you at, mate? Where are you? I think someone said it earlier. Antonio said it earlier. So, yeah, it's kind of a joke at this point if they are allowed to get away with it. Yeah, thank you, Keith. Happy New Year to you as well. I appreciate that. Kepa, Robertson, Trippier, Cancelo, Martinelli, KDB, Almiron, Rashford, Martial, Nunez, Haaland, captain. That looks really good. I don't have any problems with that, to be honest. And I like the Robertson pick in particular as a differential. You're looking good, mate. In the long term, do I want to double up on Rashford and Martial? No, but it looks fine. And you could do Nunez to Mitrovic next week if he doesn't get a suspension. Emi should go to a bigger club. I think he will move. I mean, Aston Villa aren't a small club. Obviously, they won a Champions League. They've won titles before. But yeah, you don't see them going anywhere now, even with Emery and some good players. I think he will move eventually. Let's wait and see. I mean, I'm not that big of a fan. I mean, I've seen him in the Champions League. He looked good, but I haven't seen too much of him in general. And I don't think he's worth 60 million or more. So I'd be a bit careful with that. Well, that's the thing they're always saying. I mean, maybe he's allowed to get away with it. Maybe they've consulted. They think they can get away with it. So I just don't know. It just seems very weird. I mean, like I said, I've only seen Murdic in like 2 or 3 games. He looked pretty good. He's had a very impressive Champions League campaign, but I wouldn't be able to tell you like how he will stack up. Like, I think he's a pretty decent winger. Do I think he's better than Martinelli? No. Do I think he's better than Saka? No. But he does add depth. Would I spend 60 million or more? No. Honest opinion on Enzo? Well, for Benfica, he plays a different role. So he plays as kind of a number 8. For Argentina, he played as a defensive midfielder. So it just shows he can play both roles really well. He can control the game. He's an all-rounder. I think he just needs to add maybe a few more goals to his game, but he's got everything, I think. I think he can do well in the Premier League. But as I said earlier, and I'm not trying to hate on Chelsea or anything, but I'm just not so sure if Chelsea's the right club for him. I think staying at Benfica for another year or two would be best for his development. Then he can move to Madrid, Liverpool, even United. With Chelsea, I think there's a lot of reasons why I'd be a bit concerned about him going there. I can't see any other player having the impact of Messi in a future World Cup at the age of 35. I think Maradona was like 27, 26 when he carried Argentina. But look, like we said before, in 1986, Argentina did have some good players. People just say, oh, Maradona had 10 planks of wood and he won. That's not true. And the same goes for Messi now. You know, without the other 10 and also the subs and the manager, you don't win the World Cup. One man can't win it alone. Messi proved in 2014, you know, did well to help Argentina get to the final, but you also had Mascherano coming in and some other key players, and even then it wasn't enough. Yep, saludos para vos también, Chivas. Gracias. Is Mudryk better than Neres? I'd say so. But then again, Neres has kind of, I'd say, stagnated, I'd say. He hasn't developed as much as he should have. I was referring to the fans doing those chants and also all the jokes regarding the Origins. Thoughts? I mean, look, I don't want to go too much into this. Yeah, there were some fans who did it, but there are fans in every team that do stuff like that. You can't generalize everyone based on a group of people. And it's just that, like, it's kind of weird to say they are joking around. Obviously, it's kind of a lack of cultural awareness, but I wouldn't really hit too much into that. People now hate Argentina because of stuff like that. I mean, I've seen all sorts of reasons why people hate Argentina. It's kind of funny, to be honest, but every country has racist people, so to speak, and I wouldn't say those people are racist just because of a chant, but there's no point going into that. How's Enzo's physicality? Very good. More so his engine. You know, he's kind of a non-stop runner. He's, I want to say relatively quick, but he's got decent pace. He's also quite strong for his size. I'd say he's decent physically. That shouldn't be a problem for the Premier League, but at the same time, I'm just concerned about the club he's going to if he does go Chelsea. Well, they have to. Arsenal have to buy in the January transfer window if they want to cement that title charge, I think. Sia Zaid, good luck to you as well. What's the strength of Enzo? I think he's better as an 8. I haven't seen too much of him at Benfica, but from what I've seen, I think he's better as an 8. And Argentina sometimes put in Paredes, like against Croatia, and that freed up Enzo Fernandez to play more advanced. And he's got a decent shot on him, as you saw against Mexico. Almost scored as well against Poland and also against Netherlands in extra time. So he's good with his long-distance shots. But I think his key trait, is his passing. Todd Bowley really got an endless budget or something. Yeah, exactly. Nah. I'm not sure where the Mudryk thing is coming from, but can't get both, surely. Jude slowly moving to Madrid under the radar. Yeah, I've seen, well, someone told me about that. I mean, I think Bellingham will go there, but Liverpool would be the most likely from England, then probably Manchester City. Yeah, I've rolled the transfer this week. I probably will make 2 transfers heading into 19, but I'll talk more about that in the team selection video and future streams and videos. When Gakpo will start with Liverpool, like I said, that's not something to think about right now. I think from Gameweek 20 onwards, once there's a few weeks break between 19 and 20. Of course, neither won it alone with Argentina, but they were crucial and decisive for the team at the right time. Yeah, of course. Without Messi, Argentina probably don't win the World Cup. Of course, they have a good team in general, and they would play differently without him. But I think Messi adds that extra plus factor. And even if a team can mark him out of the game, it opens up spaces for the other 2 or 3 forwards or even the midfielders. Yeah, the game is updating. Yeah, it should do. McAllister, in my opinion, is the midfielder teams should look at. Yeah, I would love him at Arsenal. I know Xhaka has done very well, but McAllister adds firm competition there and also some flexibility. Arsenal, should I say, can play a 4-4-2 in some games and play McAllister as left midfielder. He can also play in different positions too, even as an attacking midfielder, just behind the strikers. So I would love him at Arsenal, so to speak. He's also linked to Chelsea and Atletico Madrid. Well, the Port is an engine. His biggest trait is his non-stop energy. I think his passing has been sloppier since he joined Atletico Madrid. I think he was better in Udinese. He was an all-round midfielder there. He was like top 3 or 5 in the Serie A every season, pretty much, for passes, for take-ons, for chances created, so many different kind of facets of the game, even recoveries of the ball. In this World Cup, what's his role? His role is to cover for the right back, to run, press non-stop, and also to, I would say, to just keep the ball moving and pass it to the players that are even better on the ball. I think he's very important. Yeah, he didn't get a goal or assist, but he's so important to Argentina. There's a reason why he's played pretty much every game under Scaloni, and he is just a non-stop. He's so important to Argentina, and he's only lost, what? I'm trying to think. He's lost like 2 or 3 games in his Argentina career, maybe 4, and only 1 in his last 43. He's so important. Sure, Liverpool can't make 100 million signings in back-to-back seasons. You never know. I mean, Liverpool have done really good business. Maybe with new owners, yeah, it could be the case. Yeah, I think Amrabat will move. It's just a matter of time. McAllister's so underrated. He's been in the shadow under Trossard also in the Argentina. Yeah, that is true. I'll be honest, with McAllister, I was worried going into the World Cup. I thought, yeah, I thought Lo Celso would be too big of a miss, and I thought we could, suffer as a result. And whilst we did, and I think we did miss Lo Celso at times, McAllister had an unbelievable World Cup. He was man of the match against Poland. He was great in other games as well. Against France, he might not have gotten the best ratings on these websites, but he was so integral to keeping Griezmann quiet and the others. Yeah, he's been fantastic. And he also got the assist for Di Maria, one of the best goals for me in the World Cup, if not the best. Currently don't have any Liverpool assets in the team. Should I use the transfer or keep it for next week? Well, any transfer you make now is for Gameweek 19. So once the game updates. Yeah, I think Robertson, Salah, Nunez are good options. And the ones I'd get is Salah and Robertson, to be fair. Yeah, he played poorly in the first game, but then people started up saying, oh, he should be benched just because of one bad game. And the same with people talking about Lautaro Martinez now saying he's awful. He's not awful. Just because of 2 or 3 bad games or coming off the bench and missing chances doesn't mean you're a bad player. De Paul had 1 bad game. He was good in all the other games. Even in the final, I'd say he was fantastic. Good passing, great pressing, everything. He had everything. I think De Paul's biggest weakness, if anything, is his shooting. I don't think he's a good finisher. I don't trust him on penalties. He missed one against Colombia last year, but everything else he does very well for me, and I wouldn't change him for anyone. Will Lo Celso be getting back his spot? I don't think so. I think he'll be competing with McAllister. I think McAllister will remain there, and it'll be a case of Lo Celso versus McAllister for that spot, but it's good. More competition. I would have loved Lo Celso to get his medal. He deserved it. He is so good for Argentina in the other competitions. But if there was one positive to come from his injury, it was that McAllister cemented himself as a serious option for Argentina in the future. I have to say, Tagliafico, a lot of people were like, oh no, he's starting in the final and stuff, but he was incredible against Croatia in the semi-final, and he was good against France. He actually never got dribble pass in the World Cup. The same goes for Lisandro Martinez. Yes, they didn't play too many games, but Tagliafico started 3 games, including the opening loss against Saudi Arabia, where he was one of the best players there as well. I think Tagliafico is better defensively, but Acuna is a bit more rounded, and he's better going forward, but both really good. I'm happy with both. Nunez's physicality is going to be the major factor. Both defenses should concede. Yeah, I think Leicester might get 1. I could see Liverpool scoring 3 or 4, though. I'd say 3-1 Liverpool, maybe 3-0. Good question. Not necessarily. I'd say, in terms of who's more suited to wing-back, it's actually the right-back. So Molina, he is more suited as a wing-back. That's how he scored against Netherlands in that game, the opening goal. I think Tagliafico and Acuna are better as left-backs, so to speak. Who's more suited as a left wing back between Acuna and Tagliafico? That's a tough one. I'd probably say Acuna, but that's a really difficult one to answer. And that's mainly because Acuna has a lot of experience playing as a left mid, but as you saw in the final, yeah, he's not the greatest left mid in the world. Is Robertson nailed on, or will Klopp still be rotating with Tsimikas? I think Robertson will play most games, but there will be the odd rotation with Tsimikas, more so when the FA Cup comes about and also the Champions League. And if Klopp wants to kind of rest players in the Premier League, then he will rest Robertson there. Yeah, exactly. I agree. Molina's the one for the wing-back position. As a right-back, he's a bit worse, so I think he's safer and even better as a wing-back, but he had a great World Cup, by the way. I think he was a shout for best right-back in the tournament, but I think most of us would say Hakimi. but Molina was definitely up there and quite underrated in this World Cup too. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's been a blast talking to you about FPL and also the World Cup, it seems, kind of catching up and everything we missed out on. I very much appreciate it. If you haven't already, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes, and let's also push on towards 20,000 subscribers. It'd be greatly appreciated. We've been answering questions for the last 2 hours or so. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM as well. You can put your questions and comments there too. The same goes for the Discord server in the description below. The same goes for the FPL League. You can join that and also leave comments in this video too. I'd be very interested to see if you've got any more questions or anything else that you want to talk about. But I appreciate all the support. I wish you a happy new year. I hope you enjoy the festivities and the seasonal, I don't even know what I'm saying at this point, the seasons, the end of the year, end of 2022 with your family and your friends. I hope you have a great time, and I hope you keep on enjoying the football, and good luck getting those green arrows. I'll see you very soon.